Good morning. I'd like to call to order the regular board meeting of the Monterey Peninsula Airport District, November 20th, 2024. And if we could have a roll call, please.
Director Trabajian,
Here.
Director Gagliardi,
Here.
Director Pick is absent today, Director Miller,
Here.
and Chair Leffel.
Here, thank you. Director Chabajian, would you like to lead us in the pledge, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Communications announcements. Our attorney, Mr. Huber, is joining us remotely today. So he is present, but not physically.
In the cloud.
Do we have any communications from staff? Okay. Anything from the board?
No, nothing.
All right,
No.
thank you. Public comments on non-agenda items? Do we have anyone on Zoom that would have a comment on anything not on the agenda? If so, please raise your hand.
See no hands, Madam Chair.
All right. And I see none in the audience. I'm going to close public comment. We have a consent agenda and we have 6 items on there. Is there anyone from the public that would like to pull anything to discuss it, for us to discuss? Any of my fellow board members?
No, nothing.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
I have a first and a second.
Director Trabajian,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. Right, moving right along. You'll be out of here in 8:10, Dave. We're going to have a presentation next on the water allocation process by Mr. Dave Stolt, Monterey Peninsula Water Management District General Manager. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. So I've been doing a version of this presentation to City Council, Board of Supervisors, and thank you for inviting me here. We treat you a little bit differently, so this will be shorter because you don't have all of the issues of population growth forecasting, arena housing numbers, and so forth. So hopefully, but it is an important piece of process. Oh, the trip is turning it up. Try the old school next. There we go. It's interesting. We can always work off paper if we need to. So, oh, there we go.
There we
Perfect.
go.
So this community's been a little bit differently over time in that we've allocated water so that we can count water, and water is intimately related to the building permit process. And so our district was a little ahead of the curve than most of California, having done this now for 30 years. Typically, you would take a place like Irvine or anywhere in Orange County, and they grew, and they'd look and they'd say, "Oh my goodness, we're at about 80% of our total available supply. We better go find a new supply." And they didn't know exactly where the water was going, didn't track it. We have for a variety of reasons, but in the 80s, we actually had a process where we took what we thought was all the available supplies and just assigned portions of it to the jurisdictions. Over time, we found that those supply availability was changing. We thought there was more water in the river, and the state stepped in and said, no, there's less water in the river. We thought there was more water in the seaside basin, and the court stepped in. And so that methodology was not working really well. And we moved to a new system where when a new supply source comes online, we allocate a portion of that to the jurisdiction so they know how much water they can work with. Interestingly, the airport is kind of lumped in with Monterey's usage, as are the Army, Navy, and Coast Guard. And we tend to separate them out because the way you grow is different than the way, say, a city might grow. So why do we allocate water? As I said, scarcity of supply, the orders, order 9510 by the state, the cease and desist order. And honestly, we really like being able to track water usage and water allocated, the capacity to use water out in the community. So we are in the process of establishing new allocations. It's not like we're giving you water and you're in the water business. We're basically putting a credit in your bank account. And then as building permits are issued and projects are done, your account starts drifting towards zero. And if you did have additional need, we would refill it. But at some point, all of the jurisdictions are drifting towards zero, and you eventually hit a point where you have to go out and find a new water supply. I mentioned building permits. Typically, if somebody wants to do a project, you go to your building department in a city or to the county, and the first thing they should do is say, do you have a water permit? And the builder, the developer, in this case, the airport, should say no, but I'm going to release water from my allocation for this project and go to the water management district. We will issue a water permit, do a plan check, and assure that the amount of water you state that you need is in fact what your plans show, and that you have sufficiently demonstrated you have water to do the project. And then the building happens, and then we go do a final inspection. So the goal here is to make sure that when we make an allocation, that the project lines up with how much was allocated. So what's driving this at this point now? Well, we have a project, it's under construction. It's going to be completed maybe 10, 11 months from now, and it's called the Pure Water Monterey expansion, and it's bringing along 2,250 acre feet of new water. And for those of you, it's football season, so an acre foot is like a football field with a foot of water on it. Can do about 5 single-family homes in Carmel Valley and 6 or 7 single-family homes in PG, and more if it's a multifamily setting. So we inflicted pain on Brian Roth here at the airport on September 12th. We had a 2-hour meeting with city managers, planning directors, and we walked them through what our process is to help them better understand that there's method to the madness. We don't just pull a number out of the air. And this is where your situation is a little better than the cities. So each city, we know how much water is being used on an annual basis. We look at that and then we say, well, where are you headed? And each city is going to have a different population growth rate. So residential water use is usually based on people growth. And they all have different job growth rates. But we had that meeting September 12th. As I said, it was 2 hours. It was a little bit grueling, but it was helpful because your staff now knows what the process is and how we went about it. I've been out visiting with city councils. I'll be at the Board of Supervisors on December 4th. And so now we're at the policymaker level to make sure that you all understand what we are proposing to do with this allocation. It's going to be memorialized by ordinance, first reading of an ordinance at our December meeting, second in January, and then it'll go into effect in February. We're encouraging not actually allocating water to building projects until the pure water project comes online, because it's not wet water until the project's producing it. It's kind of paper water until that time. But for the cities, take, for example, Garden Road, we wanted the cities to know how much water they were going to be able to work with, so they could work with the developer and say, okay, we're going to have it. However, it won't solve everything until we lift the cease and desist order. So considering some of your government counterparts, there's a big push for housing, and large scale projects need to set a meter. So this is not a panacea for getting things done. We still have to focus on lifting the cease and desist order, getting the moratorium lifted so that large scale projects can get done. We are doing that in parallel. The state board is expecting us to come visit them, and we'll see where that leads next calendar year. So the way we approach it is we identify all the sources of supply that are out there. And this is just a simple list of the various sources of supply and how much water they can produce reliably on an annual basis. And I can tell you there's two of these sources where we disagree with California American Water on how much water is, and that's the ASR project and the Pure Water Monterey expansion project in drought. But we trust our numbers and our science better on ASR, and we trust Monterey One Water's numbers and science better on the pure water expansion. So this is what we view as available, and it's a total of about 12,116 acre feet. So then you need to compare the supply to the demand for water, and it's a pretty simple, conceptually simple process. How much do we use today? How fast are we going to grow? And for a period of time that you want to study, that growth rate will tell you how much water you need over that entire period. Well, water demand here on the peninsula has been dropping. This is the last 20 years, does not include the most recently closed water year, which was down another 140 acre feet. But we're just, we started this process a year ago. So you can see the last decade, we've been pretty much flatlining between 10,000 acre feet per year of demand and 9,000. The water year closed September 30th. And for the first time since 1957, total demand last year was under 9,000 acre feet. So everything old is new again, 1957. But we wouldn't just take the last year and say, okay, that's how much water we use today. So we looked at 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years. And we landed on the 5-year average as a measure of how much water is currently being used. And we also know how it's being used. And this is, we're basically a residential community. It's about 66%, 2/3 residential, and then 1/3 non-residential. And then you can see the breakdown by city and the unincorporated county. And as you would expect, you can see Delray Oaks is primarily a bedroom community, so they show up on the residential use pie chart, and you can barely see them on the non-residential use pie chart, and kind of the opposite for Sand City, the little purple on non-residential use, and you can barely see them on residential. And of course, Monterey is probably the biggest user. You see how much of the pie they are in non-residential, and that's basically due to hospitality and the size of their commercial district. So we take that data, and this is where I said it's easier for you. For the cities, then we get into this whole discussion about whose third-party growth forecast to use for how many years, and we do typically use AMBAG's regional growth forecast, which forecasts both population and job formation. And then we apply the job formation growth rate to the non-residential use, and we apply the population growth rate to the residential use. And then we found an inherent conflict in their numbers between housing starts and people. We believe people use water, empty houses don't, legal lots of record don't. But if you make the assumption that the regional housing needs allocation, RHNA numbers, if you built that housing, how much would those houses use if houses used water? It's different than how much water the people that are projected use. So it's as if Ambag had one person in one office down the hall and one person in a different office, and they forgot to talk to each other. That doesn't apply in the airport's case. Now, we take that 12,116 of the available supply, you can subtract out current demand, and that tells you how much water is available potentially for allocation, and that's 2,590 or 59 acre feet. But there's other things going on. It's possible that California American would want to repay their deficit in the Seaside Basin of 700 acre feet per year. In drought years, there may be a little hiccup in the pure water expansion of somewhere between 200 and 345 acre feet. Aquifer storage and recovery relies on storage, and we've just started running it in the manner it was intended to be run. And so storage hasn't built up. We've got about 3,000 acre feet in storage. So we say, all right, we're just getting started with some of these things. Let's hold back 1,000 acre feet. And so we've got 1,559 acre feet that we could allocate. We went out then and we looked at how much water we feel the jurisdictions need. That's the how fast will they be growing. And I already mentioned, we typically use the MPAD population growth forecast for residential and the jobs forecast for non-residential growth rates. But that's not the airport's issue, so we can just step away from that question. And in your case, we did a survey. And with the 3 service branches, we did a survey. And we said, even though your past use is kind of embedded in Monterey's past use, your future use is going to be chunky. You got a new terminal project. I was asked a question at Delray Oaks City Council last night about the north side of the airport, and I kind of dodged it. I said, well, you have your own personal relationship with the airport. You can deal with those. But there are things you can do on the north side. At one point, we talked about the desire to maybe take down some of the buildings and build more office park kind of structures. And so over the next 20 to 30 years, you will have other ideas beyond probably the terminal. But anyway, we did that with the future commercial need. We used survey results, and we actually examined your reply, kind of went through the master plan. One thing we noted was there was no decrement or there wasn't any credit applied. So when you raise a building, you would get credit for that square footage. The terminal building, though, isn't that case. It's all new, so it stands alone. So then we basically say, how much will we need? Well, we would take those growth rates and apply them to the future period. Our future period right now is 25 years, but again, it doesn't apply to the airport because you were a survey respondent, not a growth forecast example. So here is our proposal. Your survey result, you're in red here on the near the bottom, indicated a need of about 88 acre feet over the 25-year period that we inquired about. We deemed that we would apply 50% in this initial allocation. And if you ran through that with projects right away, or even a singular project, if it didn't pencil out at 44 acre feet, we would obviously dip back into the balance. We are retaining what's called the district reserve, which will be on the order of 1,800 to 2,000 acre feet. So we have additional water to allocate. What we didn't want to happen was we allocate all the water, and then you have a jurisdiction who decides, well, we're not going to build housing, we're not going to grow, and they'll sit and hoard water. And then another jurisdiction says, we're going to meet our RENA number. We're going to, Monterey's number is 3,654 new housing units, and they're very ambitious about it. So we wanted to sprinkle and water to everybody. We have this parallel effort to lift the moratorium. This is the nearest best path to lift the moratorium, with or without a desal plant. Now's the time to try to do it. So the goal, as I said, is to get water into the hands of all the jurisdictions so they can start building things, and then see who builds things. And then, we're bound to have a jurisdiction come back and say, we're going to need more, and that'll start another allocation process. And we can probably do this 3 or 4 times before we then have to say, okay, well, we're waiting on the next new piece of water supply. So our proposal for you is releasing the first 44 acre feet. It would be on your books roughly by February. You have an existing allocation. These numbers on the second to last column are from last July. So they would be updated based on February balances. But any jurisdiction that had an allocation that they previously did not fully use would have it come back to them. And so that's where we're at. You will have a total allocation of about 49 acre feet against which your current projects would apply. And that's what we have in mind for you. So any questions you have, I'd be happy to take them.
Okay, I'm going to open it up for questions first from the public. If you have questions or comments from the public, please raise your hand.
See no hands, Madam Chair.
All right. Then I'll bring it back to the board. And Carol, can I start with you?
Getting the CDO lifted. This process started in 1995, correct?
Correct.
And it pushed back, pushed back, pushed back. We've spoken about that for years.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, and my comment at one point, I said, but they've always pushed it back. They'll do it again. And that was when Lindsay Lohan was in trouble. I said, would you want to be Lindsay Lohan when the judge finally says, I've had it with you, and puts her in jail? Well, we got put in jail.
Oh, we did.
And my question to you is, after they pushed it back that far, what makes us think that we're now going to get it lifted?
Right. That's a great question. I'll drag you down in the weeds for a second. There, state of California, there's construction code, there's health and safety code. There's also a water code, California water code. Section 1052 says any entity who is taking more water from a surface water source of the state than they legally have authorization is in trespass. And so Cal-Am was in trespass in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. They were told to move off it under Order 9510, 1995. 14 years later, the state said, okay, Lindsay, we've had enough. So we're going to issue the cease and desist order. And so the cease and desist order, which is a tool, an enforcement mechanism under a different section of the water code, is simply that. It's a tool that says you are in violation. Well, as of the date that we turn on the expansion project, Cal-Am will have not been in trespass for 4 years. And looking forward, this initial increment of water, the 2,250 acre feet, is actually quite a bit of surplus in the first year, the second year, the fifth year. It takes time to develop new housing, new jobs, new buildings to utilize that water. So whether you're a believer that a desalination plant is required or it's not required, you can live under either set of alternative facts. The expansion, which again is 10 to 11 months away, will provide sufficient water to bridge you to a desal plant. And some people believe it's more than enough water to make a desal plant unnecessary. Doesn't matter. It will keep Cal-Am out of trespass for another decade minimally. And if Cal-Am can remove all of the conditions from their coastal development permit, it's still going to take them 4 to 5 years to get there. So as I said, this is the closest, nearest best path. And that surplus means that there will have been no trespass for 4 years, no trespass for the foreseeable future going forward. And then it becomes, if we're not doing the crime, we shouldn't do the time. And that's the root of the argument to the state, which is you cannot enforce upon us if we have not been in trespass, unless you think lifting the guardrails off, it's going to lead us back into the principal's office within a year or two. So we have to demonstrate that that's not going to happen. All the numbers point to there's a runway there that they should take the guardrails off.
Anything else? Carl?
You have a timeline on that or an estimation when that might occur?
Well, the reason, yeah, so there's a separate proceeding at the Public Utilities Commission that the first part called phase one was to determine whether the expansion should move forward with the water purchase agreement. So that was determined to be the case. Yes. Signatures went on the agreement, projects being built. Phase two was to relook at supplies and demand. Probably the same exercise. How much do you have? How much do you need? Has anything changed? That should have resulted in a decision or proposed decision, this summer, July, August. It has not. There's also a rate case going on that may be conflicting with it. We don't really know the inner workings of why. We haven't seen this decision yet. The State Water Board would love for the Public Utilities Commission to make a determination on those numbers so that the State Water Board doesn't have to. So we'd like to get that decision in hand before we go to the State Water Board. If there's some undue delay and they announce that they're going to extend for 6 months, then we'll ignore that. I think the important takeaway is, as I said, you don't need the Public Utilities Commission to rule that you do or you don't need a desal plant. You just need them to rule that, it looks like you have a current buffer, and then it's on us to say, and we'll have another 5 to 10 years of a bridge to whatever the next project is, or more. So they'd like to have that Public Utilities Commission decision in hand. So we're going to wait until January. Originally, I told the Deputy Director of Water Rights that they'd be hearing from the community in, October-ish. And I've already let them know that we'll be in after the first of the year informally, and then probably a formal petition for modification of the CDO in March, April timeframe. And that was all designed so they could do they don't do anything quickly. And so the hope would be they begin to think about this and take action, have a workshop, whatever it is they're going to need before the pure water expansion project turns the on switch. So best case, you won't see anything out of the State Board until the end of 2025.
We're not dependent on that for our terminal project, correct?
Correct. There's a yes and no to that. My understanding is you have sufficient existing meters. If that were not the case, or you were trying to do an outbuilding that needed a new meter set, then you have a problem. But I think that's still the current understanding, that you've got connections. Yeah. Similar thing with the Naval Innovation Center. I see Marlene is here. Cal-Am in that case, it's almost like a master meter situation. There's a number of places that have sufficient meters to do projects, but there's many that don't. A lot of raw land and seaside, no meters. Same in Carmel Valley, and large scale projects, a 5/8 inch meter, which might have worked for a residential setting, doesn't work for 10 units. So anybody who's trying to do something big needs the moratorium lifted. That's why that's our next focus.
So currently, right now with this building, we have 500,000 plus people a year going through it. So a lot of water usage occurring. But initially, this building was going to be torn down. Now we're keeping it in place. But certainly our water usage will drop significantly and move over there. Is that factored in?
It is. Originally, when we approached it, we had assumed that you'd get a credit for square footage here. The master plan indicated that there would be some use of alternative supplies for, I don't know if your wells are being used to serve the terminal.
Not yet.
No. But there were gray water systems. There were some. It wasn't 100% potable use, so we had to factor that in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are using the well water for irrigation purposes.
Yeah.
And we're also using the well water to take the car wash facility that
Right.
rack off of
Yeah.
Cal-Am.
I thought we were also going to use it for gray water in the terminal or not?
Not at this time. No, this time the potential is only for landscaping and outside usage in the terminal.
Yeah, the rental car was the one I was thinking of, yeah. And thankfully, you know, Woody's serves more alcohol than water, so.
Well, they got that ice.
But then
too.
they have to use the bathroom a lot.
Yeah, that's true. too.
Um, what will be our allotment for the new terminal? How many?
You
acre
know, I
feet?
thought about that this morning, realizing that the stack of papers is on my desk, so I can't tell you. I do know that our water demand staff, the permit staff have looked at everything that's been supplied, so I believe we're on it.
Yeah, there's no indication that we'll be deficient in even our current allocation,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, well, that's good news. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Great.
John?
I mean, actually, a lot of the questions there, it's really just this whole CDO and allocation kind of like back and
Yeah.
forth. So, I love that there's more water, but it doesn't seem like it's completely accessible. Is that correct? Meaning that,
Yeah.
okay,
That's, everybody I talk to is so focused on their housing numbers.
right,
And it's like, you know, you could do a fourplex with an existing meter, but you can't do 110 units.
right.
So that's really an issue. It's like, oh, hey, great, glad you have water, but I can't do the things I want. So Garden Road won't, you know, a couple of those can get done because they had old meters that are still being kept in place, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's the
It's an
thing is
issue.
that, I mean, many of my questions are actually really more personal in that the meters are the agent, if there is a lot, like you said, in Seaside, I mean, I know people in Seaside who have that, there is no meter available, or is this, like you said, there's this master meter system? Is there a way for a jurisdiction to reallocate a single meter or, yeah,
Yeah, so the Ascent project in Seaside, which has now been renamed Seaborn or something different. We did some sleight of hand, some leisure
Yeah.
domain. The city of Seaside got off of Bayonet and Black Horse. Marina Coast now serves it with recycled pure water Monterey water.
right,
That create water credits, and you know from your
Mhm.
time with the water master, that,
Right.
you know, crafted a unique program and then front loaded 10 years worth of these stored water credits to assign to that project,
right,
which allowed a meter to get set. There's maybe 2 other places where we could probably pull something like that off, but otherwise, no. And
Okay.
Cal-Am is, you know, they're very diligent about, can we set a meter? We can't set a meter.
okay,
And they have 4 lots in Seaside, Cal-Am does.
Yeah.
That are home lots.
Mhm.
And they like to sell them and just get them off their books. But they're worth a lot more when you can set a meter.
that's right,
So-
exactly.
So they're just gonna sit on those. And so it's, you know, their own regulatory framework's hurting them in that situation as well. And we have a house for sale in Sonoma, and every realtor is kind of crawled out of the woodwork. The family let the meter go 10 years ago. And it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. So it's all gonna come back to lifting the CDO.
Doesn't the district, I thought the district controlled meters.
Well, we do. You know, to get a meter set, Cal-Am will say, can we set this meter?
Yeah.
And the answer is typically yes. Things are changing though, even, so like, Ryan Ranch the same way.
Yeah.
Ryan Ranch, the well started failing, so we put a moratorium on setting new meters in Ryan Ranch. Bishop, you could still set meters. But 4 years ago, we let them interconnect to the Cal-Am main system
Yes.
on a pipeline.
Yeah.
With some language that says this area is gonna be served by water, other than that coming from the Carmel River, so that it was outside of the purview of CDO. So that technically allowed meters to be set in Bishop, probably should have allowed meters to be set in Ryan Ranch, but we haven't lifted that moratorium yet. So there's some cleanup to be done. So it does change. But if you just pull back to the, the 6 cities on the peninsula, there's not enough flexibility to do what everybody wants to do. So,
If the water can, yeah, maybe I'm taking too much time. Well, I just have one last question and then we'll move on. If water can be shown to be coming out of the basin and not out of the river, is there a path?
yes, we've used that, but unfortunately, for the state's purposes, they lumped them together.
All right.
So, the state, going back to the Lindsay Lohan, that's a good analogy because the state's kind of tired of us. And,
Yeah.
Mayor Williamson said, in July, well, is there an interim solution you can give, what I used to call selective non-enforcement? We tried to get the state to release 50 acre feet just for affordable housing. And certain people said, you're asking for more acre feet from the river. It's like, no. We don't believe we're going to break the legal limit. We think we're under it enough. But if you intensify use on an existing location, or affordable housing, would you please just not enforce this condition 2 of the cease and desist order? And it took them 1.5 years, and eventually they said no. So recently Tyler said, well, we need to get going on our housing numbers and we get some relief. And the poor guy from the state basically said, just get your act together and get a new water supply online, and then we'll look at it in the whole context. So they're willing, they're ready to listen to try to lift the order. As you know, being involved in water issues, California American is a little hesitant to join with the party.
Exactly. I understand.
But we've been in a parallel process, been going to the chambers, been going to the Hospitality Association, Coalition of Businesses, saying,
Right.
you can live under the alternate set of facts, doesn't matter, separate desal from the moratorium. And if we can do this now, let's do this now. And I think the feedback I'm getting is, yeah, please try to do this now.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with this approach. I think that it's in everybody's interest to get the CDO lifted, and then we can figure out the supply and demand, I think, on our own.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty smart on that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Thank you very much, Dave, for this. This is great.
Dave, I got one question. So if Marina Coast provides more water for Seaside, then how does that work that it frees up? Or is that just allowing them to use their allocation and do more?
Yeah, so if I'd given you the city's version of this presentation, you would have seen a couple charts that show water served by others. And so the city of Seaside, we know how much they use today. We know what their projected growth rate is. But we also know that Campus Town and Main Gate or Front Gate or whatever it's called, they're going to be served by Marina Coast. Delray Oaks housing element had 89.1% being served by others, Marina Coast, because of being the old Fort Ord. But then I met with staff, I don't know, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and we decided to kind of theoretically change that to 70% served by others, because there may be a change of heart at the Moose Lodge area down by the Stone Creek Shopping Center, or the triangular lot over by the Garden Center. There could be housing. There's only one buildable lot left in Delray Oaks. So for Seaside, Delray Oaks, and originally the city of Monterey, because their first housing element draft pushed a bunch of housing into the old Fort Ord. And then when they revised it in July, it all came back. And so the Fort Ord became buffer housing, and we kind of ignore that. We're looking at their 3,654 units under the RENA. But over in the county unincorporated area, it's a little bit different. September Ranch has its own supply source. Rancho Cañada Villages had its own water right. So in that case, we still take it off of the need for the county because it's being supplied by someone other than Cal-Am. So we do make those adjustments. It has no impact on the airport.
So that's the one that says served by others or whatever it
Yeah.
is. That's all of that. Okay. And then, how does Sand City's desal work in there?
So it's not just Sand City, but there are a number of jurisdictions who have what we call an entitlement. And an entitlement is where a small water project was built, money spent by local interest, and we've let that local interest have their little piece of water created. And so examples of that would be the Malpasa water right. So Carmel Development Corp. Entitled a subdivision back in the 60s, decided not to build it because it's basically in a floodplain. They did sell the land or donate the land to the Big Sur Land Trust. And so that's the Carmel River Free project. That's kind of the old Odello East field. So you go across Carmel River on Highway 1. It's that chunk of land to the left.
Where all the little red houses
Little red
are.
houses, yep, perfect. So that entitlement was, the water right was stripped from the land and then sold in Carmel and Carmel Valley.
Right.
So that's an entitlement. The Sand City desal plant. Of supply. Pebble Beach has been for years allowing lots to be developed and meters to be set, because in 1992, when I was an investment banker, I financed $34 million worth of that project. And yeah, we saw the debt be paid off July 1, 2022. And I'm like, God, I'm so old. 30-year debt. But they have an entitlement. So that's how houses have been built, with meters being set, and the new golf cottages along the first fairway and so forth. So Sand City has the same thing, little pocket of water. Pacific Grove has an entitlement that we recognize, but the state board doesn't recognize. And so they've only been able to use their water for home remodels with existing meters, because Calum rightfully won't set a meter because the state didn't recognize it. But the state did recognize Malpasa, Sand City, and Pebble Beach.
Complicated.
It's fun.
And then I think last February or March, then the board decided that there were no more credits on gray water or
Yeah, I
The
think it's
old-
further back than that, but yeah. So we'll provide a rebate, but no credit.
so, for instance, if we were to figure out something here with that, it still wouldn't matter. It wouldn't give us any more.
Well, yeah, so the American Tin Cannery Hotel
Mhm.
originally had a limited envelope of credit available on that site, but 18.53 acre feet. And the original design was more like 22 acre feet. And so they proposed a gray water system, some other technical features that would bring their total water use down. And so we did consider it in that case, but then they changed their design, reduced the number of rooms, and it became a moot issue. But we've had situations so that on the Presidio in Monterey, they built some barracks, some dorms that were going to rely on rainwater catchment, and they just didn't work out. And I think they've pretty much taken the system offline. Marlene, I don't know if you know about, but yeah. So it became an issue of long-term reliability, and we just didn't think it was there. And I think at some point, as gray water systems become more popular and more consistent, then we might reconsider.
Okay. Well, thank you. I don't think I had any other questions. Staff, do you have any questions of Dave while he's here? Off of what came off the presentation?
I don't think so.
Okay. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
We're trying to do our part to be a good neighbor, looking for every way we can save. Thank you.
Dave.
Okay. LSL's been waiting patiently. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning.
Now you know all about water.
Oh yeah, I'm feeling much more knowledgeable about it than I was before.
So the finance and budget committee had the presentation on this, and it is a good audit. But if you would just kind of hit the highlights, Ryan, for the whole
Certainly.
board.
Yeah. So in brief, the highlights are we completed our fiscal year 2024 annual financial audit of the district's statements. The goal of the audit ultimately is to render an opinion on whether or not the financial statements are reliable in all material respects. The numbers are correct. You can use it for compliance reporting, decision making, all that type of stuff, and trust the numbers that you're getting. So we did render an unmodified audit opinion, which is the highest and best opinion that the industry allows us to render. It means that everything in it is accurately stated. We completed the testing, making sure that the transactions that are represented there did actually happen and that the balances of the balance sheet items exist. And basically the statements are reliable. So good, clean audit report. We had a couple of recommendations to improve some internal control items. Those are detailed in the audit report as well that went along with it, primarily related to expense reporting and compensation. The other reports that we issued for the year are the annual single audit report. The single audit is our compliance audit of the federal award programs that the district receives. The primary one was the FAA Airport Improvement Program. About $19 million was the amount under audit this year. It was probably about 95% of all the federal funding. So we really looked into that program. We took a deep dive, testing compliance with all of the requirements of the FAA. And pleased to report that we had no findings with respect to that program. All the compliance testing that we did resulted in that it's a good, clean report for the FAA. And then finally, we issue a third report, which is over the PFC, the Passenger Facility Charge Program. Again, in compliance with the FAA's regulations, and that is also a clean report. We had no findings with respect to that program either. So overall, it was a very good audit. Numbers were good, no non-compliance with the FAA requirements or any other regulations. So that is kind of the high level brief summary of the meeting I gave to the committee. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them at this time.
I'll open it up to the public. If you have any questions or comments, would you please raise your hand? All right, I'm going to close that on Zoom. Anyone from the audience? I see none. From the staff, John,
No, we covered this, I think.
right? Carl?
Yeah, just to my typical question I always like asking, you do audits for other government entities? Any airports in there?
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Any other airports do you do audits for?
Not actually this year. So I had one other airport client in previous years, which was the Ontario International Airport Authority down in Southern California. I worked with them for a couple of years. However, they did switch audit firms earlier this year. So as of right now, you are the only airport that I work with.
But you do government entities, right?
Yes. Yes, I work
How
with
do we compare with government entities as far as our reserves on hand, our unfunded liabilities? How do we match up?
Yeah, so as far as your reserves on hand go, you are well above the minimum recommendations. So the GFOA, or the Government Finance Officers Association, publishes a minimum standard of about 20% reserves. And so the district is above that percentage. I don't have the number directly in front of me, but I remember in my presentation to the committee that it was significantly above that. So that is excellent. You're ahead of the game on that. Most other governments that I audit are either below the 20% in reserves or just hovering around it. So in terms of that, the district is in excellent financial condition. The unfunded liability is always a big topic of conversation, and I had a really excellent discussion with the committee on the unfunded liability. And, as part of the CalPERS pool, the district really is at the mercy of CalPERS returns and their actuarial estimations. There's not a tremendous amount of impact that the district can make. So if CalPERS has a good year, the district will have a good year. If CalPERS does not, district does not. So as of right now, I believe that the district's pension liability is about 78, 79% funded, which is very consistent across all California governments, which are part of the CalPERS system. So in that regard, you're not any worse off or better off than anyone else part of the pool. So overall, financially speaking, the district is doing very well. We have no concerns about the financial health of the organization. And as far as unfunded liabilities go, there's only so much you can do when you're part of CalPERS. So,
How is CalPERS doing this year?
so this year, they are doing, from what I hear, they're doing okay. They're not expecting a few years ago, they had an absolutely awful year of returns, and then they followed it up with an amazing year. So it's from what I'm hearing, they're just kind of on target for a relatively ho-hum year. Nothing super crazy, but we'll see when they issue their reports here pretty soon.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
No questions, thank you.
I have just, and they're just corrections. Will you turn to page 96? You have it, Ryan?
Page 96. I do not actually have it open now. What is the
It's on
issue on page?
financial statement findings, section 2.
Yes, okay.
It's
All
just
right.
to clean it up because it bugs me. Under cause,
Yes,
read that sentence. Something's got to come out of there.
okay. I'm opening it. Give me one moment, please.
96, you said?
Take was out of
Mhm. This is overpayment of the incentive pay appears to be. So what do we want? Do we want was or appears to be?
I see what you're saying. I'm opening the file. One moment.
Okay.
So I will. The system runs a tad slow sometimes. Okay, here we go. All right, page 96, going there now. Okay. Here we go. Let's see, page, all right, so was or appears to be. looking for it here. Is it which paragraph are you looking at? Is it in our?
It starts under cause and it's the
Oh,
first sentence.
I see. Okay. We'll say, I believe we'll use the term, was.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Correction
And-
is made. We'll do a reprint on that for you.
Okay, and then in the next one, effect,
Mhm.
in the
Yes.
second sentence, there's two wases. It
Oh.
was.
It's a definite pause.
All right. Yeah, I see
Okay.
that. All that is fixed now as well. Apologies.
And then I just have a question on the dates when I went back. So according to this, a various payout options to be made upon approval on August 21st. I believe that should have been July 17th. It finally got done in August to clean it up, but
Okay.
it should have been on July 17th.
Okay. So August 21st, July 17th. Okay. Changing that.
It should have been at the next board meeting, and it was not done.
Okay. I have updated that information for you.
Yeah.
It matters. I don't know if it does. My name is spelled wrong.
Well, it does matter.
Okay.
So Carol says her name is misspelled also. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch that when I
And
looked
it
at
isn't
it.
all the time, but yeah,
Is that in the front part of the document?
the first part of the document, it's CHORBAJIAN, not GIAN.
Yeah, common spelling.
Common
J.
spelling.
Okay. So
Smith
J.
and
and
Armenian.
E.
It's
Okay. JIAN. Okay.
All right, John, anything?
Nope.
All right. With that, I would entertain
We need a motion.
I don't believe so. It's just we're just receiving. And will you just do those corrections and then with our controller, just make sure that they're made, Mark? Thank you.
Yes, the corrections have been made, and I will email that to Mark right after this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. We'll see
All
you
right, thank
in a
you.
few months to start again.
All right. Start cycling. Appreciate it.
Have a nice holiday.
All right. Likewise. Take care.
All right. Before HOK starts, do we want to take 5? Because that'll probably be a little bit. Let's just take 5 real quick. Okay, item 3 on our agenda is a presentation by HOK on the replacement terminal design. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Who's up?
Yeah, I'll get started. So yeah, again, good morning to the board, to Monterey and everyone else that's attending. So we wanted to give you a overview of kind of the final design as we've kind of running or switching from kind of design phase into pre-construction phase. It's going to be very similar to what you've seen last time, which is a good thing. You know, there shouldn't be any major changes during the last phase, the contract documents. And let me share my screen. So let me know if you can. Hold on, sorry. I have to hit share. Yeah. Are you able to see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So again, it's going to be very similar to what you saw last time. We do want to go through the kind of the project timeline, just kind of seeing what we've done so far, and just a glimpse into where we are going. And then I'll hand it off to Alan just to give us an overview again of the design. We did have some comments from last time that we will address in the presentation from all of you. And then we do have an animation that we want to share with you at the end. That's kind of just a fly through of the same design, but pretty cool. So the timeline is shown here. So we started really in June of last year. So it's the end of 24 in June of 23, and we did a couple of presentations back then. As you remember, we had to work through kind of go in from sort of the bigger program and seeing how we can kind of refine that and create a best value project for that fitted within the budget that we ended up agreeing at the time. So that resulted in our base of design. And then as we went into schematic design, design development, and then contract documents, we gave you an update of how the project progressed, and we much appreciated the feedback and the comments that we received during those meetings. So last week we issued our IFC issued for contract documents. So that's the package that will also go to the contractor, and that kind of doesn't necessarily kick off the phase of the selection of the construction manager as constructor, but it kind of gives them that additional information that they can use to refine their proposals. So that's where we were and kind of where we are going. But what we want to focus on today is sort of what we have done today. So really about the design, how we've turned that original vision into a fully developed design that's ready for a contractor to take on and build. And with that, I will hand it over to Alan to take us through that. I'll jump in, Alan, with anything that I may think of or you want me to, but please
Bart,
go
that
ahead.
sounds good. Thank you very much. And good morning, everyone. And we're going to walk through kind of the passenger's journey and the overall massing of the building and organization of it and the kind of the design, the final design that you're going to be seeing through this. And as Bart mentioned, at the very end, we have a new fly through that we want to share with you all as a passenger is taking their journey from parking, coming into the building and processing through. So you'll get a chance to take a look at this new video. And thank you all for all of your input over the last number of months to help shape and organize this building. We're quite happy and proud of it, and I'm hopefully you're feeling the same way. So let's start with this first image, which is bird's eye view looking from the parking lot side where passengers will be able to park their vehicles coming to the airport and then looking towards the main entry points of the building. What you're seeing right in the center of the mass of the building is the entry outdoor courtyard where the public can come, passengers can come to before they actually enter in to start to process through for ticketing and ultimately into the building to go to the gates. We're looking now from the west aerial view. So we're looking, you can start to see the curb side of the building, the drive lanes for the vehicles that are driving around and dropping off passengers or picking up passengers. There's another curb area that's towards the right where you see some of the vans that are parked there for hotel vans and things would have their own curbside edge there. As you move further to the right in the image, you start to see some trees and some more parking, and that's where people that are coming to the airport can park and then go from there and move across the walkway and into the overall airport building in this area. We're looking now at the air side where the aircraft will be the 5 gates that you see aligned through there. Again, all gates attached to this new facility. You can start to see the raised roof in the middle, which is the clear story that brings very nice light into the overall project. And we'll see that as we start to go into the building. And then you look further up the screen, you start to see the curbside and the vehicles going around for opportunities for drop off and vehicles for picking up and dropping off passengers that might be going to destinations outside. And then you've got the parking area. The first parking zone is for premium parking, and then there's more long-term parking that goes further back out towards the kind of the bosque of trees. And moving around to the east aerial view, you start to see at the lower portion of this image, you see a little bit of a garden where the concourse at gate 5 is. That's a complete area that's secure. You can't go out to that garden, but you get a view, and we'll see that as we start to move into the building for that last gate on gate 5. You're beginning to see here also the circulation of the vehicles as they go by the curbside for drop-off pickup, and then the van vehicles, and then onto the left-hand side, the parking. We're going to walk you through the departing passenger that's shown in blue and the arriving passenger in red. And this journey we're going to be taking will start with that departing passenger as they start to go through ticketing, through the checkpoint, into the central gate lounge, and then ultimately out to a gate, and then coming back from landing, and then getting off the aircraft, and then coming from the last gate, gate 5, which is on the far right-hand side of this image, and then walking along the concourse and coming to the bag claim area, near the car rental area, and ultimately back out towards the central courtyard. That's, again, this is on the land side, so that's an opportunity for all to be in that courtyard for community and for people that are there, well-wishers, and people that are traveling through the airport. So we'll start with our passenger journey on the departures approach. Coming from the vehicle, you start to see the building expressed right off the bat as you come through. You can see it's very welcoming. There's lots of glass that brings daylight in. You can see what's going on in the building. It's a really wonderful scale with beautiful materials, with metal panels, glazing, and wood elements that actually start to celebrate and show this beautiful mass timber building as you start to approach the new terminal. This is right in the center where that main courtyard area is, that landside area where you're actually able to see trees and look through the glazed area that actually goes to the main large lounge area, which is called kind of call to gate, where people can gather and wait and ultimately go into to the aircraft. But a really beautifully organized central courtyard for all to enjoy it, community. And then you can see in the view the departures direction is on the right-hand side, and the arrivals is on the left-hand side. And we'll go through all these as we walk through the main building. You're beginning to see the departures area where you begin to go through the entry points and come to the ticketing. Coming into those main doors, you'll see the ticketing area. Again, the raised roof above it. You can see the clear story, daylight glazed areas above it that'll bring daylight into these spaces. You see the mass timber framing of the building on the ceiling, and you start to see the ticketing that's right there as you start to enter. Once you go through ticketing and check your bag, you start to head towards the security checkpoint that you can see in the signage that's just kind of in the middle of the screen, showing people to go to the next step. Getting through the checkpoint queuing, you're just beginning your process. You've dropped off your bag, brought your ticket, and you're starting to queue up here as you start to head towards the TSA screening. And this is just showing that queuing line as you're moving. There's plenty of space for queuing, getting organized to go into the screening area.
And Alan, this might be a good kind of place to mention that in none of these renderings you'll see art or advertisement. So we did have a discussion with the airport for locations that might be suitable for advertisement. But as the project progresses, there's an opportunity to identify specific locations that might want to receive the art once you all kind of know the type and the art that you would want to display in the project, in the building.
Bart, thank you. Yeah, there's a number of places, and I'll try to kind of pinpoint those as we go through this. We're now actually right at the TSA screening point. We haven't gone through the whole process yet at this point, but we're actually queued up and we're going through to check our bags through screening. You can see the raised roof again with the expressed mass timber, the clear stories that are bringing daylight into the space. And right in front of this, once you process through, you start to see a little bit of a veil screen, and that's where the main lounge is, where people will be able to sit and work and wait for their aircraft and be able to get a cup of coffee or whatever.
Yeah, and this is reflecting the 3 lanes that TSA approved for us.
Now you've gone through screening and you actually are now entering into the main lounge, the call to gate area, and you can see in this view, looking towards the left, that's looking back out towards that landside courtyards. You may have well-wishers that might be out there waving to you or whatever. They can still see you before you are going to go out to your gate. On the far right-hand area is where the gates are. So in this position, you can actually see the aircraft. You can see many of the gates, but this is the main central area where most passengers will be waiting and be able to, again, work on their laptop, work, make phone calls, grab a cup of coffee, whatever food might be offered. But it's a central, really wonderful lounge area that allows people just to relax and wait before they get to their aircraft. It's a tall roof in here. We're looking at 18 to 20 feet in the roof height. You can see the mass wood timber above and the framing, again, daylight coming into the space. Part of this area does have carpet in it. We're looking at carpet tile, so they're easily replaced for the acoustic ability. With this volume, we want to make sure, I mean, all these people that we do deal with, the acoustics in the area. So there's some carpeted areas, but the main dining area, we see the tables off to the left with the chairs. That's actually a hard surface, like a terrazzo surface. So it's easily cleaned, maintained. So food service, food access is really where there's hard floors that are easy to clean. And then where there's more relaxed lounge areas, there's some carpet in those areas.
Yeah, maybe Ellen, also worth noting that the seating you see here is a combination of millwork, built-in seating, and loose furniture, kind of the lounge chairs and the dining tables and chairs that you see. For the loose furniture, we are carrying an allowance. So even though we've kind of reviewed the selection with the airport for aesthetics and kind of maintenance quality, there is an opportunity as the project progresses and the time comes to actually procure the furniture to either look for, better value alternatives, and just generally, if there is a change in preference, there's an opportunity to make those adjustments later on. Okay, I'll jump to the next.
Now you're coming from that main central airspace we were just looking at, and you're headed down the main concourse, and you're going down to one of the 5 gates that are along the concourse. Again, you can see the hard surfaces here. The flooring is a terrazzo. You can see the expression of the mass timber beams that are above you, and there are acoustic panels that are between each of these beams, allowing for good acoustics, noise control as people are moving down. But we also talked a moment ago about opportunities for art and advertising. This is an area where you can see there's a wall zone that's fairly long, and there's opportunities here for possibilities of art along this area. We've moved down towards the last 2 gates, gate 4 and gate 5, and we're headed towards that garden I mentioned a moment ago. Along the way, you're going to be accessing the restrooms to get to those areas, and then looking towards the left where the glazing is, you're looking right out towards the aircraft, and then straight ahead to the gardens. You're at the last gate now, at gate 5. You can see that garden again, and this is completely outside of the main building. It's only something that you would look at from this gate. You do not go out to that garden. It's just giving you a nice, pleasant, calming area at the end of this gate area. There's ability for seating down here. Since this is the furthest gate, we've allowed for more seating down in this area. If somebody doesn't want to wait in the main lounge area, they could come down and be closer to this gate with some seating. Now we're going to change to the passenger inbound. So you were just at that same area we're just looking at. You come off of your aircraft at gate number 5, and you're headed back down towards baggage claim to exit the airport. So we've just started the journey going down the concourse, again with the hard surfaces on the flooring. And then you can see all the mass timber framing of the building as you start to move down through the concourse. You've moved all the way down the concourse now in this view, and you're just beginning to get to baggage claim. Will you be going through baggage claim entry point here? These are multiple doors that give security so nobody can breach this and get from a non-secure to a secure side. So these doors will open as passengers start to move from the secure air side, moving to the land side into baggage. The baggage claim hall, you've just gone through those doors. Again, the ceiling is raised to about 18 to 20 feet. You can see the framing of the mass timber, the clear story that wraps around and bringing daylight into this space for the carousels to pick up your baggage. There's also oversized baggage you can just see in the view kind of towards the right side that allows for golf clubs and surfboards, things like that, that people might have been traveling with to pick up. And there's also rental cars that are just along the edge here, just past that oversized baggage area.
Yeah, and Ellen, just to be clear, the regular baggage conveyors are capable of dealing with golf bags, but sometimes airlines might want to take some extra care and put them on the oversized. But otherwise, they would be able to go through the regular if the kind of the need is there. And then just wanted to point out in the corner, you'll see the sign for rental cars. So if you go into that niche, there are counters and back offices for the rental car agencies.
And now we're moving kind of through that space, and we're beginning to go towards the exit point to go back out to curbside parking, getting a ride share at this point. You've just cleared and gone through the main enclosure of the building. You're right at that central plaza, again, where the landscape would be, the curbside, right at the curbside edge here. So you've come to a beautiful garden, and you've come through the airport, and now you're looking for your transportation to get to your destination. Want to also hit one more time on this beautiful courtyard that the whole building is organized around. So this is on the public side. To the far left is where the main parking lot would be, but you've got this beautiful plaza that has landscape in it, places for people to sit, to wait. The community can use this space. Again, that glazed area to the right, the two-story space, you're looking into the main lounge area where people are waiting for their aircraft, so you can actually be a well-wisher and wave from this point to somebody that might be going through processing and waiting in there. So there's this amazing connection from this point to look through the building and actually all the way through out towards the aircraft. This view is showing the observation deck. So we're at the far west end now on the concourse side. At this point, you're looking at that observation deck. You can see the aircraft. On good clear days, you can see the water from this area. This area in size is about 20 feet by 20 feet to give you a sense of the size of it. And this is also the zone where you'd go out for pet relief. There's a room that's right adjacent to this with a doorway that brings you to a point where you can have a pet relief area. And that was one of the subjects that was brought up last time to make sure we have that. And it's now been accommodated right at this area. And oh, thanks, Bart. You can see it in the upper right-hand area where it says pet relief. And that deck area right there, there's a space for pet relief right off of that deck.
Yeah, maybe just to note that you'll see the furniture on the observation deck is different here. It's kind of organized in this plan more as a lounge arrangement. But as noted, that is not final, but just to kind of give an indication of what the options are for that space. So go back to this one, and then I'll take us to the last.
Yeah, so you're back at gate 5 in this view, looking out towards that garden. And again, it's only a view garden. You don't go out there to occupy it. I'm going to show the building in kind of nighttime when it's lit up at night. Very welcoming expression of the building. can see it here in this rendering. Again, coming around from a vehicle to be dropped off or picked up, you can see the overall building as it starts to glow, and you can see through the building, through the construction of this beautiful mass timber, the high ceilings with the raised clear story pieces, a clear signage of where to drop off and pick up, and the central garden that's right between the main masses of the building. I mean, from the center, again, parking, you're right off of the main central courtyard as you come to this point and make your decision to go through ticketing, or if you're picking somebody up to greet them from baggage claim. It's a centralized space that allows people to meet and greet and go to their destinations in one very clear central spot. A view again from that courtyard on the land side, you're looking at the view through the glazing. You can start to see people that are in that larger lounge, but also the outdoor deck. So it's again very welcoming, very transparent, very open, and an expression of this beautiful wooden structure that everybody will be able to enjoy and see.
And then maybe before we go to questions, we can kind of share the animation here. So it's I'll kick it off now.
It does have music.
It's all the same components, obviously.
But we're not getting the sound on it, but
Yeah, I can turn it back. I actually turned that off because I thought you guys might not want to hear it. And I don't know if you can hear this.
no, but that's okay.
No. Okay, it's a silent movie, like the good old times. But yeah, it just gives you a little more sense of sort of the experience. And I'm sorry, it's still a little jittery, even though it's from my desktop.
I don't know any of these.
And here are those flip flow doors that don't require anyone to attend them. And we're back home.
So we'll be using this video and putting it on our website, on the Metamorphosis page of the website. So it'll be available for people to see. And it actually has a music component, very calming music component to the background of it. Bart, were you going to share the boards, the product boards?
Yes, and I apologize that I did not bring that up sooner. So I guess they are in front of you, and yeah, again, I apologize. They are a representation of all the materials that we've used for the interior and the exterior. And let me just pull up sort of the image of what you are all seeing and share that here. So we've got these. Let me minimize that. These two boxes. This one has a combination of both the exterior and interior finishes, but you see a representation of the finish of the mass timber that we're using here. So there is, if you look closely, there's kind of a line down here where the top portion is unfinished, and then what's below is the actual finish that we are proposing. We've got a sample of the glass. We do have the sunshades that we didn't draw in any of these images or videos, but we do have a strategy to mitigate glare. So for the central gate lounge, the upper half of the glass can be covered with this sunshade, and then the clear stories for where the sun might penetrate and either create too much glare as in contrast, or actually be in people's eyes. The clear glass, as you can see, is for the exterior deck. So that's those tall 10-foot panels that surround the observation deck. we've got pavers that you could see on that last image where we're looking into the courtyard. We have these individual pavers, and they also continue in a similar. We've got a different material for interior and exterior, of course, but the intent is that the same look and feel kind of runs into the dining area in the central gate lounge. And then this is an example of the kind of the wood that you would see underneath the soffits and then continue into the ceilings in the back claim and ticketing for kind of the lower ceiling as you come in before you get to the pop-up roof. We've got acoustic panels up against the wood decking just for acoustics. We couldn't just have a complete bare wood structure exposed because it wouldn't meet the acoustical requirements. It would just be too loud, too much reverberation. So in between the beams are beautifully exposed and expressed, and then in between them, that's what we treat for acoustics, along with the carpet in the central gate lounge. At the apron level, we are spraying the underside of the deck, and that is kind of a combination of fire treatment and thermal insulation, because a lot of the apron area is open to the elements, so we don't want that cold to come up through the slab. And then for the office space, we have a plaster wall on the exterior with windows from the offices that would have this glass as well. In the interior finish box, you'll see starting at the lower right-hand corner, you'll see a combination of the two tones of terrazzo that we're using. As you could see in the renderings and the film clip, is that it's not just a single pour. I mean, there's technical reasons that you can't pour a full concourse of terrazzo without it starting to crack, but there are also kind of aesthetic, and as we had previously talked about, just for people to get a sense of the rhythm, we have these divider strips that are zinc and will separate sections of terrazzo. This is that porcelain tile that kind of continues the exterior into the gate lounge. The various carpet tiles that we have, we've got full samples if we want to look at those at a later time, but these are a representation of kind of the field tile in the gate lounge, kind of at the perimeter, sort of this idea of the pebbles on the inside. And then we've got this gradient that you saw in what we called the garden view lounge at gate 5. From the wall, it kind of starts with a light green, and then it turns into gray as it meets the terrazzo. Some back of house finishes. We've got carpet in the offices downstairs. Obviously, sort of anti-static in the telecom rooms. I apologize. Rubber flooring in the corridor, just where people might walk in with wet feet and kind of track potential dirt from the outside. Even though we do have walk-off mats at all our entrances that's required for LEED, we're still on track to get our LEED Platinum, so we have to do that. And then in the restrooms, we've got kind of a gray floor tile at the entries. We have the blue and the green accent wall tiles, mosaics that just provides a little bit of a kind of highlight as you enter them. And then wall tile where we've got plumbing fixtures to protect the walls behind them. This is our kind of wood panel at the gates. You probably saw where we had the gate counters. There was a a wood wall behind them with a screen and the big number that identified the gate number. And so that is that these wood strips, they're actual panels. It's not all custom made. We've found a material, some paint samples, so our typical paint, and then we've got an accent paint. And then at the bottom here, we've got solid surface for the millwork, kind of the main body of the millwork. It's a very durable material used in a lot of our aviation projects for millwork. And then as accent, we've got that wood trim to reference kind of the theme of the building. At the ticketing, you could see behind the agents, there is this sort of green tiled wall. Those are a whole bunch of these little tiles, and you can see the kind of 3D effect that they have. So they create a little bit more interest, and they kind of define the inland hills theme that we had originally proposed. And then we've got some other millwork finishes for the bar that is a little darker, and not referencing the rest of the kind of the airport millwork, which would be the ticketing and the gate counters and the BSO, the baggage service office counter in the back lane. So just to distinguish that and obviously give it a little bit more of a lounge appeal. And then we've got these sort of tambour slats at the face of the bar as well. We're showing here 2 samples of fabrics that we're using on the millwork in the central gate lounge. So the seating that would be kind of behind the planters that you saw in the overall view of the gate lounge. There's seating behind those. So yeah, thank you, Chris, for reminding me to walk through these. So with that, I think just want to ask, well, thank you for your time, and ask if there are any questions we could answer.
All right, I'm going to open it up to anyone who is online. If you would raise your hand, please, if you have questions or comments. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Grillbecker. Denise is having a little technical issue.
Is there any way you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, great. Thank you. This is Uwe Grobecker, New Monterey. Just a question for this outside part, what's it called? The outside right in front of in the middle, where it's like a plaza where you can sit out and hang out. Have you ever considered talking to the Monterey Aquarium to maybe include this as an inside part of being of the terminal, and have the Monterey Aquarium move in there and show what they have, and have like a small little section where they demonstrate part of their what's it called, aquarium sections where they have animals displayed. Because I think it's a kind of waste of space right now, the way you have it outside. I don't think that people are going to use it. It's going to be just there, but not being utilized. And I wonder whether there's something you can work with the Monterey Bay Aquarium and have them included in that, and kind of promote Monterey with aquarium, which is a pretty big draw and a good way to promote Monterey. That's all I wanted to ask.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to comment or ask questions? If so, please raise your hand.
No hands, Madam Chair.
All right, I see none. I'm going to bring it, anyone in the audience that would like to comment? Okay, I'm going to bring it back to the board. And Carol, can we start with you?
Yeah, I have 2 questions, actually. I'd like the the terrazzo idea is great. Especially when the carpet tile is good too, because you can get it up. It's not just a big chunk of carpet that has to be totally ripped up. But from the terrazzo, is there any opportunity, you're seeing people there sitting, having a cup of coffee for a spills and slip and fall liability exposure on the terrazzo, or how is it textured so that we don't have that?
The terrazzo is finished in a way that it meets all the slip resistance. We typically, for like actual spills, if they can't be cleaned up, we typically have like spill kits that just identify locations if there's a big puddle, that people don't walk through it. But the terrazzo meets all the slip resistance requirements for interior walking surfaces.
And the other question I have is, for the outside areas, have we looked at, in the renovation of the Monterey Conference Center now, in the front of it, there's opportunities for panels, for large group meetings or events to put their informational or their meeting or event information up. Do we have any opportunity there for that? That's something that we could potentially derive some revenue from?
We have not had that discussion as yet, but certainly there is that opportunity.
Okay.
That's not part of the.
I mean, I would
design.
think honestly that if you want to, you're coming for Car Week, I'm sure there would be plenty of manufacturers that would want to pay to have advertisement there in the front of the terminal.
Mhm.
And we don't have a featured vehicle yet. But we could, I mean, again, it's an opportunity for revenue.
Yeah. We've only started to scratch the surface on where revenue can be generated here. We've spent some time with the architects on where we can do some digital advertising and where we can place some backlit advertising. There are several other opportunities that we've yet to explore. The opportunity to have a coffee cart outside in the courtyard for everyday use. The opportunity to host concerts and events out there, to make use of that and to bring the community here, which was something the board said that you wanted. So we've yet to scratch the surface, but those are good ideas that you came up with.
I'm sure, because I think we could get a lot of interest in that. And again, absolutely, the OEMs would probably pay anything to get advertisement out there. Thank you.
Okay. Carl?
Thank you. Very nice, beautiful building. A couple quick questions. We talked in the past about a self-service baggage drop-off. I didn't notice that in any of these renderings here. That's still on the drawing board?
Yeah, in our review with the airport, the self-service bag drop, the way kind of it's used or underused and the required staffing that it needs, didn't seem appropriate for Monterey at this time. We do have spaced the ticketing counters in a way that kind of the dimension in width between the counter and the scale allows for replacement of a self-serve backdrop.
Okay. So it could be converted at a later time at minimal expense is what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean there's equipment involved, right, with the self-serve bag, but it wouldn't require a renovation of the terminal. But the equipment would have to be purchased and yeah.
Okay. So what's the plan as far as the plans go? When will you be done with the actual plans that we can go out to bid for?
Those were done on Friday.
Those were done on Friday.
Yes, we're technically done with design. There are some small tweaks that could be made, but very limited. We've spent a great deal of time both with the board and with the architects trying to craft a building that meets everyone's expectations and requirements. And I think this building probably does the best that we could do. We're in the process of selecting a construction manager as contractor or construction manager at risk. That would put us in a position where we may have guaranteed maximum price in March, April.
Phase one, yes. So to meet the requirements of the Airport Terminal Program grant that we received, we need to have those costs in hand no later than June. So in this procurement, we're asking for the phase one GMP to be in our hands in March so that we can submit our grant and get our grant agreement in place for the $14.2 million that we have waiting for us.
Okay, great. So what would be the board's next step in this process?
Next step would be when we bring you contracts with the construction manager.
And that won't be till March, April of
March,
next
April.
year.
We'll probably share with you, Bart intimated, and he's correct, that there's a furniture allowance. We constructed it that way because the airport has access to cooperative purchasing programs. And we may be able to get furniture at the same furniture or similar furniture as recommended by the architect at a discounted price. So we thought we could probably do more with the money that we would have allocated in the project to look at furniture. So you may see us come back to you with some furniture ideas. We've already got what the architects refer to as a lookbook, which is their recommendations on furniture. And when we've done our research on how we can maximize our dollars, then we'll probably bring that back to you and show you that as well.
Okay. Okay, very good. That's all I have. Thank you.
John?
It's a beautiful building. I've really enjoyed watching this kind of come together. I do have a question on signage, and that is, when you come into the current Monterey Peninsula Regional Airport, you see that? I didn't see that anywhere here. What's the plan for that, that sign?
Yeah, we did. Go ahead. Okay, yeah, I was just gonna say, and probably the same as Chris, that we didn't show any of the kind of access from CA 68, but there is a new sign that will identify the airport. There's an opportunity to add signage to that for the restaurant, if preferred, and that's replaceable, so that can change if ownership changes. And then in the new roundabout that's going to be constructed, there's going to be what we call a monument sign that identifies really that you've arrived at Monterey Airport. So it's a big MRY uplit in a beautiful landscaped center of the roundabout. And then there's obviously all sorts of directional signage to guide you to long-term parking, premium parking, terminal access, rental cars, all those things. But yeah, we did.
I'm specifically talking about the terminal. The terminal is, when you're on the plane side, you can see you're at Monterey Regional Airport. Are we going to have the same thing?
On the facade of the building?
Yeah.
We have not discussed that.
Okay.
That's something we could look at.
Okay.
Just to clarify, the monument sign that Bart was just discussing is at the roundabout at Olmsted and Garden.
Yeah.
Not at 68.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Whether 68 is a roundabout.
Oh, yeah.
Lighting, we don't know.
No, it makes sense that it would be at Olmsted and Garden. And
Yeah.
exactly. No, I understand that.
We
Okay.
can at a later date, maybe walk you through the signage so you get that. It's probably a good.
I'm really just wanting to know on the terminal if we're gonna see it.
That you're in Monterey, Mexico, and
Yeah,
Monterey,
right,
California,
yeah.
instead of Monterey, Mexico.
But yeah, that may be something good to bring back too, is just show you the signage, because it's pretty well thought out, and it is very visually attractive. So.
Nice. Okay, thank you.
And part of the reason is that for funding, we've separated the land side and the parking from the actual terminal building.
Yeah.
And we already have a contractor in place under the CMAR auto construction that was approved by the board for that component. But yes, we can bring that land side back. That's why it's not highlighted here, is because it's not part of the next procurement.
But the sign on the building would be part of the terminal expense, right?
Correct. It would
Yeah.
be, yes.
Aiden?
Yeah, I am. Thank you.
Okay, I have a few. So in the TSA area, I see where it's got, I think it had 2 lines, and I think you said there's going to be room for 3.
There are 3. Mhm.
Okay,
The-
so there are 3.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah,
I mean, it appears to me every time I travel that when you get through the screening, that then if you need the extra pat down or the wand or whatever, and then somebody has to take your bag over and paw through it. So how is that all? Because that looks all clean and lovely, but there's a lot more activity in those areas.
yeah.
How does that work in there?
Sure. Yeah, this plan shows it, although it's a little grady perhaps, but shows it better than the 3D view. I should also note that the checkpoint has been reviewed with TSA several times, and they've approved the layout. So that's good. But here you can clearly see the 3 lanes, and if you remember, at one point we had a seating area here, and that's been converted into a checkpoint space for that 3rd lane. So you queue up here. We've got document checkers at the front. You go through your screening process. These tables are kind of the secondary screening. So if your bag gets diverted and they want to see what's inside, that happens at these tables. We've got a podium for TSA for supervisors that's elevated. It's raised a little bit above the floor, so they've got good oversight of what's happening. And in addition, you can see these benches here that provide opportunity for people to sit down, put their shoes back on, and their belt back on. Recomposure
Okay.
area.
And then are we going to have a stoplight or some light on that crosswalk in front of the terminal? Because that's a fairly large place to walk
Yeah.
across, and with cars coming, what kind of protection do we have for the
Won't
pass?
be a stoplight, it'll be a raised area and lighting, probably pavement lighting. So that
So the kind of lighting that when you approach it, it lights up and then the cars have to stop?
That's good.
Yeah, that's currently not what we have. We thought that might complicate it, but it is an option. But what we did is originally we had 2 crosswalks, so we combined them into one. So that's to kind of increase drivers' attention to only that one crosswalk. Like Mike said, it's raised, so it's kind of functioning as a speed bump, but it's also more visible. And then the material, as you can see, of the crosswalk area is different than the roadways. So visually, it also kind of reads as kind of a barrier. Um, and then what you don't see here, well, there's a couple of things you don't see on this median. There's a MST bus stop here that has a shelter, but we also added a railing kind of along the terminal side of this island to prevent people from jaywalking, so that people can really only cross here on this central crosswalk.
Okay, but
Gonna be speed.
ask them.
Are there gonna be speed bumps that'll slow them down? Because it can be like the Indianapolis Motor Speedway breezing around there sometimes. Is there
Are
gonna
you
be
talking
something,
about your drivers?
not my drivers, they wouldn't be working for me still. But it is, you've got that crosswalk, and is there anything, again, as they're coming around, something to slow them down, like speed bumps, like we have currently
Yeah.
out here?
Yeah, those are not part of the plan right now, but they're easily added if needed. As is the lighting at the crosswalk. It's not currently part of the plan, as Bart said, but it's our intention to do some external lighting that delineates that as a walkway. We have enough of a problem up here at the employee lot where people blow through a stop sign,
Right.
and it's not necessarily the safest operation, so we understand that.
So I'm just going to say, I don't think it looks real safe. I'll go on record. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4 lanes and then 2 more lanes. And when people come into an airport, if they haven't been there before, even if they have, they're either looking for their people, they're looking for where they're going to go, they're dodging other cars. And I think that's a fairly wide expanse. It looks lovely and compact on here, but 4 lanes is pretty wide.
Yeah.
And to have it where there's not a light where people just have to stop. I mean, I'm in and out of La Jolla a lot, and even that's a small terminal. It's about the size of what we're going to build here, and they've got 2 places to cross, and they both have lights that you hit it when you come up there. I think we need something.
Yeah, and we don't disagree. It's just not part of the plan right now, but we know that when it's completed, that will be a safe intersection.
When it's completed in 2026 or 2027, it will have a stoplight.
We'll have some kind of lighting there yet to be determined that will delineate it as a crosswalk and require drivers to stop for pedestrians.
Okay, I'm going to ask staff to please make sure that they do everything possible to make that as safe as possible, because I just, people, if you cross slow, and especially if we've got a rainy night and people are darting around, we have a lot of flights that go early in the morning when it's darker, or they come in in the evening. And people, when they're thinking about walking, they're just like lemmings. I mean, they're just going forward and they're not paying as much attention to traffic as they should. And if you get somebody that's not familiar.
Hear what you're saying, and we fully agree.
Okay. Window coverings. So the shade screen, is that going to be like an automatic that when it senses there's a certain amount of sun that it automatically comes down and then it automatically goes up if there's not? How does that work?
Yeah, we've got it currently programmed, at least in our design, as just going up and down at the times where it's typically expected to where there's typically glare expected, so that you don't get the situation where you've got clouds going in front of the sun and the system goes up and down. So it's more of a consistent approach, even though you might sometimes have um, some a cloudy day and the shades might still go down, so that it could be programmed. Obviously, that there be a manual override if that's the case, but currently, so it's based on an annual program where the shades go down at times where you typically would have glare.
And we're doing that in lieu of the glass that changes because of cost. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, the glass that changes, there's cost involved. The track record has been spotty for implementation. We're doing it on another project, and there are lots of issues with it. It comes with a lot of cabling. Every piece of glass has its own IP address that needs to be tracked. But yeah, the short answer is yes. This is a cheaper solution, and because we only need it sort of at the higher elevations, we can keep the glass consistent across the whole facade. So there's an aesthetic component to it as well, rather than having the upper half be a different type of glass than the lower half.
Got to keep that aesthetic with those mass timbers.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm hearing you that it's programmed like I'm gonna make up a number at 4 o'clock every afternoon when we think there's sun, it'll automatically come down, but that there will be buttons where if people are too hot or too cold or it's a gray day, that someone can go and hit it and override it.
Yeah, let me check on the the button. We obviously don't want passengers to control this because it'd be a mess. But let me confirm what the actual manual override, what that would look like. That could be on an app, or that could be on a control screen, or it could be a physical button. I'm not sure, so I have to follow up.
Yeah,
on that.
because we do not have as much staff in this building. So someone would have to be.
Yeah, it'll be, the manual override will be controlled by our staff. The function of that will work with Bart on, I believe it to be nothing more than a toggle switch. But we'll work on that. But yeah, it's going to be one of those that with the manual override, if we have a gray day and we want more sun or we want more natural light, we can leave it up. But it does have an automatic feature that relieves the manual requirement. So it'll do it on its own. We can override it if needed.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about practicality of I mean, it may end up you got somebody in the restaurant that can do it because they're the ones that are there hearing people complain. But I'm just asking, I have it at my house where my skylight's open, but then I can manually override it and do that. So,
if your question is who would do that, it likely fall to our operations team.
okay. I'm just trying to think ahead here. It's lovely to have
Lovely question. Yeah.
lovely pictures, but it's like, who's got to do the work? Thank you for giving the pet relief.
Yeah.
The answer of they have to go back outside was not good. Are we also going to have one as there's one around the front of the terminal?
Yeah, there's one land side, so I've got here two notes. One is here, kind of around the corner, so a little bit out of sight, but behind the parking, so that can be used before or after you're inside the terminal. And then this one is pure airside. So this kind of fence around is kind of a fence around a fence, but this is the AOA fence that separates airside from landside. And then this is just to kind of create that separation between that airside fence and the pet relief area. So we don't want people necessarily to be walk all the way up there. So we've created this area. Yeah, that is the pet relief, accessible from the outdoor deck. So yeah,
Well,
you
I
would
think it
have to
mostly
go.
comes when they get off the plane and they're waiting on their bags that they need a place to take little Fifi.
Yeah, if they're waiting on their bags, they're already landside, so they would go out and they would go here. But if they are checked in and they're hours early or their plane gets delayed, right, that was the comment last time. Rather than asking people to go out and go back through security, they would use the airside. Or like you said, if Fifi is jumping up and down while you're still in the plane, getting to deplane, then you can run into this one first.
Okay. And then the bathroom floor tile. So the gray is the most of it. What are those little tiles?
Those are wall accent tiles, mosaic. I don't think we've got a view of them here, but as you sort of enter these vestibules, and I'm sorry, this is really small, but kind of on the back wall here.
We're just seeing your,
Oh, sorry. Yeah, what am I pointing at? I apologize. I'm pointing at my and I'm sorry, I've been doing that for the pet relief as well. So these are the vestibules into the restrooms. And then at the back wall here, we've got the mosaic tile. Now we don't have that many restrooms, so it's kind of an identifier that you're in the restrooms. There's also an identification which one is the male and the female. There's obviously a sign outside, but as you walk into the vestibule, just you're reminded of what gender you're entering. So,
so staff wise, are those easy to keep clean?
yeah, it's just in the area that you see as you're walking in, because these it's an open area. You'll have the identifier, and it's just a color mosaic there. It's not
It's not behind the toilets or the urinals. Okay,
No.
okay, okay,
And it's a glass mosaic tile.
okay. And then the fabric on the seating, and as a board member, I don't know about my other board members, but I would like to see what kind of furniture we're absolutely choosing before it gets finalized.
Yeah, we're doing that research now. We've got the allowance negotiated with the architect and we've got their suggestions. Now we'll go about putting that together and see what we can do in terms of saving money. We'll bring that back to you.
And then on the fabrics on the seating, I can't remember what, I think it might have been Great Falls, Montana. They had fabric that looked like really high quality soft fabric, but when you sat in it, it actually had a wipeability. You could actually wipe it off. So if somebody spilled something or did something, it didn't stain it. It would run off. I thought when I approached it, I was going to set on something that was woolen or nylon or something, and it wasn't. It was really good. So I know there's something out there because now I've seen it, and it seemed to be so practical. So in the terrazzo, on the floor, on the floor, is it possible with the two colors of gray that maybe we could have a couple of, I don't know, like a whale or sea lion or something on that long gated between gates 1 and 5, that we could have a couple of sea animals on that floor that would really depict and be part of our area?
If you're asking me, it's possible. Terrazzo, you can have all sorts of art installations put into the terrazzo. They just lay out these divider strips, the zinc strips, to separate the different color blocks, and they can do that by hand, and then infill with the different colors. So you can find examples of amazingly intricate installation of terrazzo, but we currently don't show that in our design. We try to keep the interior much we could sort of calm, and then we were initially thinking with the airport that the art and advertisement installation would already provide a lot of visual kind of distraction, but I'll say it's possible, but currently not in the design.
I find it very I don't know, I like it when I go to other airports, and it seems like almost everybody's got it now where they've got something that is typical of their area. I think somebody's got, I don't know what they have.
Yeah, part of that is a cost savings measure. I've done those before in other terminals, and they are very expensive to do an inlay logo. We did a compass rose at one airport. They're very expensive to do, and we didn't discuss that because of cost. As we start to get the final cost with the construction manager as contractor, then we may be able to do something there, but right now it's not here principally because of cost.
Okay, and I get that.
Sure.
I also think we have one time to do it. It's not anything we're going to tear up in 3 years, because now we have some extra money. And I do think it really adds a lot to the floor. Otherwise, it's pretty industrial looking, just straight down. I'm trying to read my notes because I had one more and I can't see what it was. Okay. Okay, I think that's it. I appreciate you've been listening to us and making the tweaks as you go. And hopefully we're about there. And evidently you think we are there if the staff said that we already have construction drawings. So we're not here to approve anything. We're just here to hear what you all have decided, I guess. We got no voice.
No, you've had voice throughout. We've met with you 5 times and showed you every iteration. including the beginning of the design where you had opportunity to express your desires for what the building would look like. So we consider that a revolving and evolving discussion with you. So you've had voice, and we've tried to take that into account in every aspect of this building, and I think you see that. So we think you've had a clear voice on the project throughout. So to that extent, we think that this building reflects everything we've heard from you.
Yeah, I think I just had an expectation that today we would approve it as opposed to
And you are
see it.
You are quite welcome to do that. That is your purview. I will tell you that if there are significant changes in design or any changes in design, that'll be at our expense. That's why we did what we did, so we could keep it within the confines of the design grants that we've had. If we go outside of that, you're not going to look to FAA, or you won't be able to look to FAA to fund those design changes. So that's why we did the process we did, which was keep you involved and get you to engage with the project throughout. If you'd like to adopt this, feel free.
No, I
It's your
don't
choice.
see it
Yeah.
on there. So it's a presentation and we've got a presentation.
Just a real quick follow-up question. It's going to be a little bit unique because our offices are going to remain here. Is there plans to always have staff presence in the terminal while you're there?
The lower level, there is an operations office, and the police office will be over there as well.
So that will be their permanent offices over there?
Yes.
Okay, and how many people will typically work out of operations?
Right now, we have three,
The badging-
four with Wendy. Yeah.
The badging will stay here.
Okay, but there'll be an office there with telephones and everything, and a coffee maker and.
All the video screens to watch.
Yeah.
all the
Very
football
good.
games. Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
It's actually considered operations center, which allows us to get some funding for that component. Typically, FAA does not participate in that component of the building, but because it will be considered an operations center, 500 square feet of it is eligible for
great.
funding.
That's going to be on the ground floor then, where the ramp is?
TSA will have their offices there, as will the airlines. So they'll all have their offices on the bottom floor and back of house.
Good, thank you. That's all I have.
Karen, a question. It's following up what you said as an opportunity, maybe, that if we could figure out what someone's logo or something would be, the cost of it, could we look at then, the aquarium? Would you be interested? Here's the cost. Would you be interested in funding this, or Pebble Beach or somebody else to have, again, they get it, to be able to, we have it, an opportunity to get it funded where it wouldn't come out of the budget for the terminal.
sure. Yeah, that's not something that is not undoable. It's a timing issue at this point, but certainly if there's opportunities to partner with the community in that respect or in other respects, we're going to look at those.
I mean, it wouldn't have to be done immediately because it's not going to be put in immediately, but we could start, at least here's the cost. And start putting out feelers to, is there somebody that has some interest? Is there, a major corporation that would want to have something? Would we want to have it there? Again, we'd like to have a whale tail or maybe a Cypress Street trademark, but that, which means Pebble would have to do it. But, at least to say, here's some initial, what we think what would cost, as you say, it's more costly. But here you are. Is there anybody out there that would be interested in maybe participating in this and have, your memorialized there in the terminal for quite a few years, possibly?
But at this point, it would be a change order.
We don't have a GMP yet, so it wouldn't necessarily be a change order. It would be an increase in cost, but not a change order necessarily.
I'm-
So,
I don't want to get into change orders from that's not what any of us are trying to do. We're
Yeah.
just trying to make the best terminal as possible to reflect our
These are-
community.
These are good suggestions.
And get it paid for by somebody else if we don't have to pay for it.
That's been our goal all along, is to find a terminal building that this organization can afford
Right.
and can move forward with. These are great suggestions. Understand that most of them come with a cost. Now, your idea of sharing in that cost is not one that we've discussed.
Thank you.
Okay. Board, are you good?
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah,
Yes.
fabulous. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, HOK.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, our next item is a presentation, response to the request for an update to the civil grand jury understanding noise report recommendations.
It'll be Wendy. Or Wendy. Why did I have Wendy on my mind? I don't know. That will be Whitney.
Good morning, everyone. So this came at the request of a board to give an update on what we have done to adhere to the recommendations from the civil grand jury. Oh, thank you. Let's see. I should point it on the computer. I'm getting. Boundaries. It's gonna be a very short presentation. We're gonna. It works after you advance the first time, then it works. If you hit the down button or the over button. Yeah, it's not working anymore. Start over. Okay, sorry for that delay. So the board, Denise, do you know how to make, thank you. The board received the original grand jury report back in June. And what we're providing to you today is in reference to a letter dated October 3rd, requesting an update on the recommendations that were made. So upon receipt of the original report, the board did provide a response. But the civil grand jury requested updated information on recommendations 2 and 3. So I am going to show you what we have done to comply with the will implement designation that we made to these recommendations. Oh, darn it. There we go. Okay, so in order to meet the recommendations stated, we have updated our passenger-facing website. So if you go to MontereyAirport.com, the landing page, you'll notice a new noise icon that I have highlighted here for you in green. Once you click this noise icon,
You get that?
I hope that doesn't happen.
There we go. Okay, now we gotta go back.
Keep pushing in the middle.
Oh, and I'm.
You're pushing the middle.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
No presentation today. We'll try this once more. These two side buttons. There we
Yep.
go. All right. So once you click the noise icon, I promise I'm not pressing any other buttons than the side button.
It's the middle one again.
You want to just advance it, Denise? Thank you. Oh, it's the program.
Where are you trying to go?
There's one slide before this.
A blank slide or something?
Mm-mm.
We're not seeing anything.
There's one slide before this. Okay, it takes you to the district side of the website. Hopefully we can get this updated. While we're working with our technology issue, I'm going to read to you what the policy statement says. And I had it pulled up on my phone just in case. So the noise icon takes you to a new landing page for noise. Previously depicted on this landing page were procedures. So it talked about the voluntary curfew. It talked about right turnout after departure. That information still exists. But the landing page now is a noise policy statement, and it includes roles and responsibilities. Right now, you're viewing the roles and responsibilities, but allow me to read to you the noise policy statement. The Federal Aviation Administration and Air Traffic Control oversee the safe and efficient management of the national airspace system. As such, air traffic control and pilots retain final authority over aircraft operations, including flight paths and schedules. The FAA's role includes designing standard air traffic procedures, prioritizing safety, capacity, and efficient traffic flow management. Our airport operates 24 hours a day, and we encourage users to follow our noise management recommendations. However, we have no legal authority to control when airlines or aircraft choose to fly. The airport does not have authority to direct air traffic control or the authority to implement curfews to restrict air traffic. We are dedicated to documenting and responding to community noise comments to foster transparency and public understanding. This process involves acknowledging concerns, providing factual information, and educating the public on FAA policies and noise management practices. Below that is a detail of roles and responsibilities. What you're seeing now is a snippet of, or I don't want to say a snippet, it's kind of a summary of each of the roles and responsibilities on the website. And I encourage those that are tuning in online to go to MontereyAirport.com, click that icon so you can see what's there. This is a summary of the table that we've included on that landing page that kind of details the key roles and responsibilities of each of the stakeholders on the airport as it relates to noise concerns. One thing that I want to point out about this change is that all this information existed on our website before. So we've made it more prominent, changing it to the landing page for noise so that people can hopefully read these roles and responsibilities and better understand what we're able to do before they submit a noise concern. One thing that I want to point out, which you can't see because we don't have that slide, is that the noise management recommendations still exist on that landing page, as well as the noise comment form still exists on that landing page. So again, you can still get to all the information that was there before. We've just added the addition of the policy statement, again, to hopefully quelch the common noise comments that we receive. So you've had an opportunity to view the roles and responsibilities. I believe I have one more slide after that. Yes.
Nice comment.
Yes. Thank you. Second recommendation that came out of the civil grand jury report is that they wanted to better understand how we respond to noise comments. We have standard operating procedures in the operations department. A lot of these are security sensitive. So I've taken the noise comment response portion of our SOPs and placed it for you here. Each time we receive a noise comment, could be via phone or via the noise comment form online, we respond. Again, these comments have to be about noise. We review and investigate if necessary. Sometimes it's just people wanting to state that this incident happened and there isn't really a need for investigation. So we determine if investigation is necessary. Again, we respond to each noise concern. And then of course, you all review them. The board reviews them in the monthly board packet, which is also available for public consumption after the board meeting. We believe that this handles the requirement of being transparent and demonstrating how we respond to each of those comments. And with that, I think that was the last slide that I have. Yep. I am happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I'll open it up to the public online. While we're waiting on that, is there anything on there about the military?
So on our landing page, no. I'd have to double check some of the additional documents that are on the recommendations page, but I can't say for certain that we expressly say how we handle military.
So maybe a statement that we are part of the national transportation system.
Yep.
And also that the skies are used by the U.S. military at their discretion or whatever, because we have no control over how they do it, when they do it, where they do it. And it seems like a lot of the uptick in complaints come when we have some of those that tend to be louder and faster and big. And I think maybe just a comment on there that is part of it.
So I just checked the website. I forgot that I had it live on my phone. On the prior landing page, so now our noise recommendations page, which will be visible as a tile to the right of the new landing page, there is a section about exemptions, and military aircraft is listed there. So there's a little bit of a statement that says that we don't have control over that. But if there's something that you think needs refinement, we're happy to take another look.
Well, maybe just on the page that had the roles, and just add a fourth
For
box
military?
and put exemption right there. Because then it's all just laid out and you don't have to go through a lot of paragraphs to read it. I think when people are irritated, they're probably not reading a whole bunch of policy or procedures. They want something quick and dirty. Okay, I'm opening up to online comments, questions. Okay, I see none. I'm going to close public comment. Is there anyone in the room? I see no one in the room with public comment. Bring it back to the board. John?
I just have one comment in general. I'm very good friends actually with a number of the mayors in the local jurisdictions. And when they've come to me and said, well, what can we do about this? Constituents are talking, I look at them and I go, you can't tell UPS or Amazon or, anybody when they can and cannot go drive down public highways that are through those jurisdictions. And if complaints came to them, you would have to basically tell them, I don't have control over those people or over those businesses. They're just using existing infrastructure that's there for all of us to use. And when I say we are exactly in the same situation, our role here on this board is literally just to keep the lights on so that the infrastructure can be utilized. And I see when I see a recognition, it's like, oh, now I guess I understand. But that perspective is, I think, kind of our weakness, is that we we are not, and it's unfortunate. I mean, we are the single throat to choke, right? People see us and they go, okay, I've got to complain about the airport. I've got to complain about the airspace. You guys are here, so I'm going to complain to you. But we're in the same situation as Tyler or Mayor Donaldson or, any of the mayors, or even Wendy, Root Askew, if somebody came to them and said that I'm really angry that I have to listen to Amazon trucks driving down Highway 68, what would Wendy say? She would say, that's not my purview. So if, thank you very much, Whitney, for this. But I mean, it's kind of a thankless job that you have, I mean, but I definitely appreciate what we're doing here. I definitely appreciate we are responding to the grand jury, and I think this is an appropriate response. I just wish that there was a better way for us to convey kind of what our purview is and what our roles and responsibilities are and what we can and can't do. So thank you again.
Carl?
Apologize for giving you a new nickname.
Wendy.
What'd you say?
I apologize for giving her a new nickname,
Oh.
Heather Wendy.
Carl?
Thank you. So I take it noise is falling under your domain right now?
Correct?
Okay. And system is up and running?
Yes, it is live.
Has it been utilized? Because I noticed a huge increase in the amount of noise complaints we got. We went from 17 to like a 300+% increase. And were those generated as they used to be through a telephone call, or were they coming through this system right here?
So the October noise complaints came through normal means. Mostly the uptick came mostly through the internet portal. I don't know, Mike, if you want to say more about.
Now, we did notice that there was a significant uptick on one day during certain hours. And many of those seem to be somewhat of an organized nature.
Okay.
So,
Was this related to the election, you think, or?
you could make that assumption, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That doesn't mean that we discounted them. That means that we did the research that was needed behind it. So I don't want anyone to believe that we just said, well, those are nothing. We didn't take them as nothing. We accounted for them. We did the research behind them. We individually cataloged them rather than in a group. So we did pay attention to them, but it seemed as though they were blocked together pretty closely.
Okay.
And they may have been related to factors other than airport activity.
Just a point of clarification, Director Miller, there have been no changes to the noise comment form. This form exists as it has for years. The only change is kind of the policy statement that says roles and responsibilities, that the airport's open 24/7, etc.
Well, it seems a little bit easier to access now, right, than it was before?
Yeah, and I think that was the intent of the grand jury's comment, was to make it more accessible.
User-friendly,
easier
or?
to find, user-friendly. And that's what we attempted to do. It's the first time we've ever taken anything of that nature onto the passenger website.
Right.
Because
Because before it
that's
would
the
fall under the
landing page.
district website, right?
Correct. Yeah, but
But I dare you to find it.
we
Not easy to
linked
find.
the two so that it was very easy to find.
Yes.
And then we enhanced the noise page, which is under the district website, so that it was explanatory. So you go on the web page, you go on our first page, our landing page, you click, it takes you right there to the noise page and gives you all of the dissertation that Whitney just articulated for you.
Okay. And as before, whenever possible, if they give us their contact information, we get back to them with all our fine
Absolutely.
and everything.
So contact information is a requirement to complete the form so that we can follow up if necessary.
Okay. Well, good luck with this assignment.
We're going to listen to everybody. We always have, but
Yes.
I think it's just making it easier for people to talk to us. And I think that's what we took out of the grand jury's report, and that's what we're trying to accomplish.
Very good. Thank you.
Carol?
I think it's just like saying that you regulate when the airlines fly in and out of here. I wish we were all that powerful. That just as Director Gagliotti said, it's like, how do we, it's like having a Cassandra complex, we keep telling them the truth and they keep thinking we're not. We don't have control over it. And the airport, I wish we were that, as you said, if you were only that powerful that you tell the airlines exactly when they can fly in and out. And that's again, maybe what we need from a community standpoint to be doing more of is going out and it's like, okay, how do we, and I love that, John, you can't tell UPS they can't drive on your streets,
Right.
I mean, that's it, that people would say, well, that's insane. I'm like, uh-huh. And guess what, and again, so how do we do this better? And again, is there a time frame required for the responses to the noise complaints?
Typically, we're making attempts to respond within 24 hours. However, sometimes research is required, right? So
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah.
it can take up to 48. So we have an expectation, not a requirement, that everyone receives a response within 24 to 48 hours. But sometimes research dictates more time necessary.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good luck.
So we need to give a formal letter back to them.
We do. I did respond in email. And
I saw
you
that.
were copied on that, but we can make that a form.
Okay, so, and maybe, when we do that, I think, because the letter is addressed to me, so I'll probably have to sign the letter going back. If it would be possible, maybe to include copies of what we put on the website so people can,
As attachment?
yeah, I think that way it's just all made clear for them. So, so thank you.
Thank you.
I think the public has to understand it is something that we do not ignore, and we're working with them. It doesn't do anybody any good to have a call to action on social media and have 20 of them dropped on one day. That I guess made a statement, but it's not
It's not productive.
no, it's not productive. So. The next item is resolution number 1890, a resolution approving the fiscal year 2025 to 2030 airport capital improvement plan and authorizing the executive director to execute all supporting grant documents.
Good morning, that will be me. So a prerequisite to getting grants from the federal government from the airport improvement program or from any of their potential programs is that we have a plan, a 5-year look ahead of projects we anticipate will possibly need funding through their programs. So that is a requirement that annually we submit that plan to them. For the last few years, it hasn't changed much because we've really been focusing on all of the components leading up to the terminal design and the safety enhancement program. But we will be through that in the next 5-year look ahead and need to anticipate which other projects we will be looking for funding for. And the funding is not only our annual entitlements, because we do get annual entitlements assigned to us based on how many enplanements we have. So there's a formula that FAA uses that puts together that annual. And for us, it's about $2.2 million that is annually ours to use from the entitlement program. And then anything beyond that, we compete for with other airports for discretionary. So I'm just going to walk you through. You have this in front of you, but this is our plan for the next through 2030. And you'll notice we've numbered them on the left. So there are numbers corresponding to this. And also at the top under 2025 off to the right in gray for the next 2 years under the reauthorization tip are the allocations have been at 90.66% federal dollars with a district match of 9.34%. But for the next 2 years, under the reauthorization, it will be a 95 FAA participation with a 5% district match. So
Best
that is
news of the day.
it's great news, especially as we're going into large projects and large grant requests. So based on the presentation we had earlier, on your ASIP, you will see that projects 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 are all related to the terminal program. So they are all related to the funding associated with that. And it's a combination of asking for discretionary, as well as in 2025, you'll see, or 2026, I'm sorry, project 4, that's that, and project 5 combined are those entitlements that we will be allocated because of our employments. So we'll be using that into next year because we'll still be constructing. So those are the projects under 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. Project 7 is the ultimate goal of the safety enhancement program. So that is why we've been doing all of the projects leading up to this, is to move taxiway Alpha, shift it about 55 feet to the south. And we have incrementally been doing that. We've done to the west, and I'll get into that when we get to the next 2 projects, the RSA infield rehabilitation, and show you that. But we did some of it to the west where it did not impact the terminal and parking of aircraft here. But we will get to our ultimate project. So that's project number 7. Project number 8 is to continue what we started in 2019, 2020. We have an EA and a mitigated negative deck to improve the runway safety area in fields. So those, if you look on the screen, we've got our runway, our main runway up there. Those are the areas to the left and right of the main runway. So it's an area that is considered our runway safety area. There's nothing in there. There should be nothing in there, but we also need to make sure they don't present issues, whether it's wildlife attractants or foreign object debris called FOD. And they, as they age, there's more of that potential. So we started in 2019 and you can see the dark areas that are on to the west up there on the screen. That was the first phase of our infield rehabilitation, is we reconfigured and improved those areas. Some of them were natural terrain at the time, and they definitely caused ponding, water issues during rain events, as well as wildlife attractants. And we did that reconfiguration of Alpha. So we moved that to the south in those locations when we did those infields. So the next 2 projects 8 and 9, are to complete the rest of that. So start to work east and do the rehabilitation to the rest of those infield areas that you can see to the left and right of our main runway incrementally over the next through 2028 and 2029. The last project we have on here is project 10, and this is the master plan. These were all the projects. This is our ALP, and based on our master plan, we put all our potential projects onto our airport layout plan. Again, another document that we are required to have. If a project is not on your ALP, again, it's not eligible for funding. This gets updated as a project gets completed as an as-built ALP. So things in blue up there are things that are future. And the things that are in the cranberry, orange, brown are things that are current. And then there are others in light blue, et cetera. And see if I can go to the screen. I know this computer's been touchy today, but I am going to try to just zoom in. do, and I'm gonna get up just so I can show you it just a little bit when we talked about this. Over in, no, want to go to the next, I can go to the next slide. Yeah. So in this section right here, you see there's a dot, it's a light blue dotted. This is taxiway Bravo. This is used primarily by aircraft on this side of the runway, on the north side of the runway, as well as, and most of that aircraft is small, light GA. This is where we moved our new light GA over here, and taxiway Bravo ends right here. So the idea on this project is to extend Bravo so they have a connection to the main runway, which they do not have currently. So to get there, they have to cross over here, come along taxiway Alpha, and then enter from that direction. So that is something that we have identified on our master plan as a future project. And that is what we've identified for the year of 2030 as a potential future project. And again, you'll notice the amounts that are there, those amounts that are on projects 8, 9, and 10 are basically our entitlement dollars. So again, back to the entitlements that we are allocated every year beyond getting through the whole safety enhancement program. We know FAA is going to be tired of listening to us and hearing from us. We don't believe we have, unless, you know, again, there are projects that could compete for additional funding, but we are going to give them a break and just, you know, use just our entitlement dollars for our projects to continue. At least that is the plan today. So one last one on here that is not, that I don't have a slide for because we don't, but it's project number 3. In the reauthorization, there is the potential for replacing the FFF foam that we currently, that has been used for years for fighting aircraft fire incidents. And it will be an allocation. It hasn't been decided how it will be allocated, but it'll be similar to the entitlements I just talked about. So we will be allocated a certain amount of dollars to be able to replace that foam. It's both dispose of, clean vehicles, and purchase new. So once we know what that cost is for us as an allocation, at the same time, we're going to be purchasing our new vehicle. That's supposed to come to us in October of 2025. And we have a brand new building that has the capacity to hold the new foam. So we've got already a clean slate to work from for about 75% of our structure pieces for ARF, but that's what that project is. And until the allocations are released and the program is put out. So again, it was in the reauthorization, but there's no direction yet from FAA on how and when to apply. But we have it on here so that we will be eligible and we have the approval to apply for those funds. And that's what you as a board, if you approve resolution number 1890, give us that authority to submit supporting grant documents per these projects that you have in front of us. And it allows us to move quickly. So with that, I'd ask you to consider resolution 1890 and happy to answer any questions.
All right, I'm going to open it up to the public. Anyone online that would like to address this issue? No hands raised. Anyone in the room that would like to do that? Public? No hands raised. I'll bring it back to the board. John?
No, I don't have any questions. I had a question on the Bravo, and maybe but you still have to cross to a right to get to Bravo? No?
There will be connecting taxiways. There will be taxiways.
From 2-8 right, you do not have to get on 2-8 right at all to get onto the transition area. You know what, I can totally take this offline.
We'll look at it and see. I believe
more-
there's also a
more
small
curiosity.
connection at the tip of 2-8 right, that another taxi. I'll have to look and see. I know we have some other other,
I'm gonna support
improvements.
this.
Yeah, and it's not been, yeah, it's not been designed yet, John, so
Yeah,
it's just a conceptual project, but that's good input.
okay, all right, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
derail
no,
the
no,
whole thing. Yeah,
It is all about you.
yeah. I'm just-
Carl.
Thank you. So just, I mean, the last thing we'll do is fixing the taxiway on this terminal project, right?
As part of the safety enhancement program.
Yes.
Correct.
And what do you think the timeline would be? Because the terminal will have to be built before we can tackle the taxiway,
The
correct?
terminal will have to be occupied.
Occupied.
Yes, we will have to have moved passenger facilities and everything that we do with the airlines over to that building to start that project. Correct. 2027.
2027,
Yes.
okay. And we actually began it. I know the planning stage took a lot to do, but when we first took our first action, how many years is this taking?
We took our first action on the safety enhancement program with the grant that we got for the general aviation ramp on the northeast corner. And that we started during COVID in 2020. So we got that grant under $2019.
Yeah,
and
so
did the
about 7
construction.
to 8 years to get this thing
To
done.
get,
Yeah.
Chris, when did you start the master
Okay.
plan
The
process?
master plans process we started in late 2014.
Yeah.
So
That's
10
how long
years.
you've been at this since.
We were talking about it when I first came on the board
Yeah.
18 years ago, so we've talked about it a lot, but it's taken a lot to get here, and you guys
Yeah.
done a great job. When we add all these components up for cost, how much money are we talking?
Look at that. Well, there's two right there. Mark, you can probably do it in 1,000, $1 million down here, another 10,
He's got a
92,
calculator sitting there.
102.
Well, Carl, if you add up the greens, for example, that's the 88,654 number for the terminal that's the number we know and love. And then the yellow number isn't necessarily additive. The $7.5 million might be, if we get dollars for that, it might be, it's included in that 88 million. And then if you look at the numbers below, you got 4 times 2.5 million, so that's another $10 million.
Okay. Thank you.
Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Carol?
No, great job. Thank you. No questions. Thank you.
I think it's, this kind of goes under that heading of how do you eat the elephant?
Right.
No, well, now you caught the car, what are you gonna do
Over
with the dog?
15, 16, 17 years and one bite at a time. It's a big meal. So, thank you. So I would entertain a motion to approve, resolution number 1890.
Move to approve.
Second,
Madam, do we have a roll call?
Director Chabajian,
Aye.
Director Gagliotti,
Aye.
Director Miller,
yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. Okay, the next item is item number 6, which is a resolution number 1891, a resolution granting a utility easement with PG&E to provide new electrical service to the United States Navy Building 700.
Yes, we were approached by PG&E actually with this request on behalf of the Navy. And I know Marlena will correct me on probably a couple things in the staff report, but that's okay. Thank you for that. It is to building 700, which I believe is at the Fleet Numeric building, and it is a connection from the north side of the airport. So we have a transformer over there that they'd like to connect an underground over to that building. And I believe it's for a redundancy piece. We have other easements similar to this on airport for a number of other things. So with that, we ask you to consider this request for resolution 1891 and approve this easement.
All right. Marlena, would you like to address it?
Good morning. I'm Marlena Brown. I am with Naval Support Activity Monterey. So first, in the spirit of Director Leffel's attention to detail, I would like to point out that the resolution should refer to Naval Support Activity Monterey in lieu of the Navy Postgraduate School. That is the name of the installation. Otherwise, we are in support of the request. It will help address some aging infrastructure issues with Fleet Numerical's high-performance computer requirements. And we look forward to support of the resolution. Thank you.
So John,
No, I don't have any
John?
questions. I totally support this.
Carl?
We did review this in lease and the committee approved going forward on it.
Carol? I'm sorry, I did not open this up to the public online. Is there anyone online that would like to comment on this issue? If so, please raise your hand.
See no hands, Madam Chair.
All right, there are no hands raised. I think this is a wonderful use of our space and shows a partnership with a valuable part of our community. And I don't know, it's probably been 6 or 7 years that I was over there and toured that building and saw the need for the redundancy and for the fact that because of what they do and how much they provide really worldwide to the Navy and to all of us, that it's really important that they do not have any disruption of service over there. So I think we could approve this with and let staff and Marlena work out the change of the heading. Would that be acceptable to the board?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So that it reflects what it actually,
In the staff report, that's the only place she was questioning it.
it's on the resolution, she
I'm sorry.
said.
Okay, missed that, sorry.
Yeah. So on the resolution, we'll just let you work on the change of it. Okay. So with that, I would entertain a motion, please.
I move adoption of resolution number 1891.
Second.
All right, we have first and a second and roll call.
Director Shabazian?
Aye.
Madam Chair,
Aye.
Madam Chair, before we do that, can I just ask a question about the motion? Does the motion include the resolution as modified?
Yes.
Yes.
My mistake.
Okay.
Thank
Just
you.
want to make sure we're clear.
Thank you, Mr. Huber. And the second accepts the modification.
Exactly, yes.
Director Shabazian?
Aye.
Director Gagliardi?
Aye.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Chair Leffel?
Yes, thank you. Okay. Resolution number 1892, a resolution amending the fiscal year 2025 capital improvement budget, a resolution amending resolution number 1880 and approving the amended capital improvement program budget of the Monterey Peninsula Airport District for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. It's a mouthful.
All right, that mouthful. We like mouthfuls. So now that we have a couple things, the revised capital improvement program, as well as our grants for this fiscal year. So when we were putting together the capital improvement budget for this fiscal year, it was in the May timeframe. We did not get bids in hand for the projects until July, and then subsequent grants till August of this calendar year. So we are now amending the capital budget to match the dollars both per bid and per grant. And also at the same time, now that we have 100% design documents for the terminal, anticipating and adding on the terminal as a project, because it has not been on our capital approved budget to date. So the amendments are to the 2022-01, the construction of the ARF based on the decision made at the last board meeting. We've increased that district cost by $228,822. The 2023-01 terminal design, when we received our grant for the AIG, the Airport Improvement Grant, which are our entitlements under that, the bill dollars, FAA did not include the cost for, we had $80,300 for PFM to do some work. So they did not include that as a grant cost. So that has been put over to district. Project 2023-02, the runway treatment. When we got our bids in hand, it was higher than estimated. And subsequently, we got our grant based on that higher estimate. So it includes an additional $935,891 capital dollar expenditure based on the grant that was received. Project 2025-08.
So, say again what the additional was, the
$935,891.
but
That's
it-
credit.
You
right?
said 9,000,000.
935,891 is the additional dollars for the runway treatment, in addition to what we had thought before.
Okay.
So we had thought that that project was going to be in the range of a little over 2.3 million. And the project came in at 3.105891.
Okay.
So that's an additional expense. And again, that is grant dollars that have been allocated to us and we're ready to spend.
Okay, so you said then the PFC match, you put a dollar amount on it. That was what I was looking at.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Correct. There is a PFC match. You want to know that amount?
Yeah.
Sure. 290,090.
Okay, thank you.
Project 2025-08 is the Phase D3 relocated parking. So in the terminal complex, we've talked about the land side being different. We have a contractor on board, Auto Construction, to do the CMAR for it. But FAA asked us to segregate the circulation dollars, so the dollars where all the roads go around the terminal and the roundabout at the 68 corridor and the actual parking, into two separate grants. So we needed to add another grant here because we originally had it as one. So we're adding that as a separate grant, and that will be under the bipartisan infrastructure law, airport improvement grants. So that's some entitlement dollars that we have set aside under that program. So that is an add of a project for the total cost of $5,620,864. And finally, the last update is project 2025-09, and that is the Safety Enhancement Program Replacement Terminal construction. So this is the first time you'll see that on our capital improvement. So this will allow us to write our grants and take our grants, because now we have a project and we need to do some preliminary work. So for example, out to bid right now with the CMAR, that is a cost to us. We use ARC. It's a company that does bidding documents, and that cost us a bit of money. So we will be spending some preliminary dollars that will then get reimbursed under the grant when we submit it. So we have that project in, and we anticipate we might spend up to $1,500,000 this fiscal year. So those are all the changes to the capital improvement budget, and we ask that you consider Resolution 1892, the amended fiscal year 2025 capital improvement budget approval. Mark and I are here to answer any questions.
Okay, I'll open it up to anyone online with questions or comments.
See no hands, Madam Chair.
All right, no hands are raised. I'm going to close public comment, bring it back to the board. Carol?
I have no questions. Thank you. Good work. Thank you.
Carl?
No, I have no questions. Just clean up here.
John?
I guess the only question is that it seems to be sliced and diced. We did talk specifically about each and every one of these, correct? In finance, it would. Okay, I'm just reconciling some of the first bullet point. That's the phone. Is that right? The amendment.
No, that is the ARF building itself.
Okay.
And that is to close that out based on the decision that was made at the last board meeting.
Got it. Okay. All right. Now I understand where that is. Is it? I mean, why am I confused?
No, well, we did not go through, we didn't go through them like this. 'Cause we
Okay.
didn't have this in front of us. So yeah, we had the chart. So go ahead.
All right. Okay. I mean, the overall, I think is fine. I'm good with that and I support this.
It's a lot of moving parts.
It is a lot of moving parts. I know exactly. But we went into this in quite detail. I was very comfortable in finance. And the overall number is fine. It's just the way that's been sliced and diced. Okay. I'm good. Thank you. I don't have any questions.
So the fourth bullet, the phase D3 relocated parking,
Mhm.
is that part of that 16 million?
No, it is not. So the
Okay.
16 million that we have is for the land, it is for circulation only.
Circulation, okay.
And utilities. So that'll, you really handle most of all the utility components that will support the circulation, but it has to go through the parking area. So it's all covered under that. This is strictly for, think of it inside the gates as the arms go up and we have a revenue producing activity that is considered, that funding is considered different and did not come from construction, discretionary. It is allowed to come out of our bipartisan infrastructure law, airport improvement grant allocation.
Okay.
I know, so many acronyms and so many.
And so
different
many
programs.
grants.
And so many programs, yes, and grants, correct.
Okay. I have no further questions. So I would entertain a motion for resolution
Adopt
18.
Resolution number 1892.
Yep.
Second.
We have Carol and John.
Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Director Chabajian,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes. Okay. We have board reports here for a second. I don't think this is going to take very long. So, did anybody have any questions on any of the department reports that were provided
None. for
or
me.
comments? Anyone from the public that would like to comment on any of the department department reports?
See no hands, Madam Chair.
All right. So now we have our standing committees. Does anybody have a question of any of the standing committees on the minutes that were in there, or you want to further clarify anything?
Just to clarify, lease, unfortunately, Forza deal fell through, so they're going to remain as their own entity and not go into partnership with the other firm. A little disappointing, but there's always tomorrow.
Anybody, anything else? Questions? Anybody? Okay. I have none. And board member reports, conferences, events attended? None. Pending requests for future agenda items?
Can we back up a minute?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I thought you were going to take a liaison report
No,
separately.
I'm not. Because this specifically says board member questions, if any. So
Okay.
we're not going through and reporting on each one unless you have something.
I do have something to add for TAMSI that I think is of interest. We've always talked about, or the plan had always been to put roundabouts on Highway 68, but there has been a change in that, kind of surprised me. They agreed to study it. They decided at first, the recommendation was to study the first 6 intersections closest to Salinas. The TAMSI committee stopped that plan and have decided to study all the intersections. Spending, I had some great notes, but I can't find them.
500,000.
Yeah, 500,000, a little bit more than twice what it was gonna cost. There is still a possibility that some intersections may require a roundabout, but there has been a dramatic shift where roundabouts were looked at the only possible solution because the distance was too long. Even the state was there and said that they think with the new adaptive signaling that they'll be able to make it work. And doing it with an with an AI program that is data driven. So there may come a time when we want to, I don't know if the roundabout we had planned at our Homestead in 68 is critical to our second roundabout that we're putting in. But
No, it's not. The roundabout at Olmsted and Garden is really driven by the city's desire.
okay.
Olmsted and 68 is Tampsey and Caltrans.
Mhm.
So they're not tied together. We're building the roundabout or planning to build the roundabout at Olmsted and Garden.
Okay.
And I think, Mike, I mean, they were so dead set on doing it. Our thing was to just coordinate with them that we could do them both at the same time and not tear everything up in over a period of 10 years, but get it done in 18 months. So it was more of us trying to accommodate what Tampsey and the state were asking, not that we were asking for a roundabout there.
No, we've never been the proponent, nor have we been an opponent of the roundabout. As a matter of fact, I think the board at one point said they supported roundabout. But it's really not we're not the driver, as you said. That's Tampsey and Caltrans.
And what was interesting, if you go back in all of the reports that I have followed for a million years, it seems, the roundabouts were not going to speed up any traffic out there. It would not make any difference at all in how soon you arrive from point A to point B. And the synchronized signals, when this was all put out 5 or 6 years ago, would actually deliver people about 2.5 minutes faster, as long as they worked and as long as people drove the speed limit along the line. So I think, it's just, I give high kudos to the neighbors who had the engineering degrees and the ability to band together to show the error of the ways. So hopefully this will move forward.
Yeah.
It'll be so much less disruptive to everyone over a period of how many years it would take to build all those roundabouts. It's just, that was beyond me. And they never did say if they were going to do them at one time or they were going to do them all separate. I figured I would be long gone before they ever finished the last one and we'd all still be sitting in traffic. So I think it was really a good decision and a good use of $500,000 to finally give in and study.
Well, the final decision hasn't been made, but this is a study period. It's going to be months before they can begin studying. So there may be an opportunity for us to argue either for or against one on Olmsted and 68, because they'll be able to look at the whole road and see if they just need to put a few roundabouts in. But the amazing thing was Caltrans, which was such the big supporter of roundabouts, have now changed their tune on it. So it was an interesting meeting. That's all I had to add. Thank you for letting me speak.
Presentation at track, it was like it was a done deal.
Yes.
It seemed, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on any of the committees? And pending requests for any item? Staff? Board? Anybody?
We do have the Swahi Winter Conference coming up. I don't know, do we need to approve attendance for that or? Okay.
And it's January 31st, like February 2nd or
I
something.
think it's February 1st. Saturday is the workshop that we typically go to.
It's like a week early.
But I plan on attending. You could put me down.
We'll calendar that on the, for the next agenda in December.
Okay, thank you.
Just show of hands, John, are you thinking that you might want to attend that since it's here in town?
That's the one we did. It was a special.
Yeah, this is separate. This is AAA, which is an airport.
And this is January 20th.
January, February 1st or 2nd, it starts.
Let me check.
So
We'll check that.
we'll just.
This
just
year it's going to be at Marriott.
So it's in town and it's,
It's the Saturday
February-
and Sunday of the pro-am. Not that that means anything.
I know,
Oh, is it?
It does make a
It's the
difference.
Saturday and Sunday of
It's
the pro-am.
really
Oh,
bad
I'm
timing.
entertaining.
I
Yeah.
can't believe they even got hotels.
Yeah, that's
at all.
amazing.
No, it's always been the week before the Pro-Am.
But now
Oh,
it's
the first and
same.
second or the Super Bowl is the 9th and Saturday and Sunday. Trust me, I know that one.
Oh, yeah, no, I believe you.
I will not be able to attend that.
So,
Yes, I'll be otherwise detained or entertained or.
Yes,
Yes,
when it doesn't rain this year, right?
yeah.
okay, well, with that, we are adjourned
All right,
at 11:20.
awesome.